course. Good evening and welcome to the Spalding County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. It is Monday.
Put your mic.
Let me try that again.
DeAndre.
Good evening and welcome to the Spalding County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. It is Monday, October 2nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. I would request that everyone please silence your cell phones and all other electronic devices. At this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Zachary Holmes with the Good Paradise Fellowship Baptist Church to deliver the invocation, and then ask Commissioner Ryan Bolden from District 4 to lead us to the Pledge of the Flag.
Mr. Chairman, that's Grace Paradise, I think.
Yeah.
Grace.
Amen. Get him right. If y'all don't mind, good evening, first of all.
Good evening.
If you don't mind, I want to preface this prayer with the scripture out of Proverbs 3. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. Allowing God to be your guide begins with a commitment to trust. Let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, Lord God, we come before you as disobedient children before good parents. Lord God, we come to ask that you forgive us of any sins, trespasses against you, your word, or your people. Lord God, right now we pray not only for this meeting, but we pray for our community. Lord God, you already know the tragedies that have occurred. And Father God, we pray that you watch over, touch, move in the hearts of those that are saddened and those that are going through. We pray right now for these commissioners and the ones that are on staff to do the things that are being beneficial for all those concerned. And we ask these things knowing that you can and you will. And it's in Jesus' name we do pray. Let every heart say amen.
Amen.
If you would, please join me in the pledge to our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, pastors. At this time, we're getting ready to start a public hearing. We're going to start this off so everybody understands with the county manager giving us an update on the situation. Then we will open the public hearing, and then we will listen to citizens' comments. Then we will close the public hearing, and then we will, in the interest of everybody that's here, then we will vote on the millage rate, so everybody understands. What you see on the screen is exactly what we see, so it's absolutely transparent to you all. If you need to move around a little bit so you can see the screen, you'll see that we have 2 or 3 things that will come up there and show. At this time, Dr. Ledbetter.
Mr. Chairman, were you going to amend the agenda to allow for the vote on the millage rate after public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion I don't have a new agenda, to amend the agenda to move the item related to voting on the millage rate up the agenda to follow the public hearing on the millage rate.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 5-0.
So that's moving one in new
To item number
to
two under public hearing.
200 public hearing.
Okay.
For those of you who have not had the opportunity to listen to the county manager, Dr. Steve Ledbetter will give us an update from the staff's perspective. Dr. Ledbetter.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to present the staff's report this evening. Just to get us started, as we shared this morning during our work session, The fiscal year 24 budget by the numbers indicate that we have an adopted $121 million budget. Out of that $121 million, our ongoing projects, major projects this year include our people, our T-SPLOST, our adherence to the 2042 comprehensive plan, specifically in respect to our 5-year short-term work plan, creating total transparency with our dashboards so that we can showcase what we've got going on. And then the fifth one that you see in front of you is our aquatic center for our major project this year. Additionally, I want to call your attention to the June 23 Board of Commissioners adopted fiscal year budget of 121. You will not see $121 million on this screen. You'll see a total of 119, and we'll go through that here as we travel through our presentation. But specifically, I want to focus on our total general fund. General fund budget for this year, the requested was 76, the recommended is now 68. I want to continue with that conversation over the next few moments. Staff was accused over the weekend of losing or hiding money. Please know this is not true. The budget amendment process is important to help ensure that expenditures made during the fiscal year are supported by the budgets created during the working budget cycle. If you fail to amend the budgets to meet any changing circumstance, it can lead to an overexpenditure of funds. We're not doing that this year. We're actually reducing those funds, and let me explain how. So the budget amendments presented by Jenna on Thursday afternoon of last week asked to move approximately $5.2 million from a booked liability from 2023. The purpose for this move was for the following. In June of 22, Spalding County moved from a fully insured carrier, Anthem, to a partially self-insured carrier of Cigna. Cigna and MSI recommended that Spalding County create a contingency fund placed in general appropriations because Anthem refused to provide claims data to determine Spalding County's exposed liability. We did have and continue to have a $125,000 stopgap for each incident. That is, should a covered employee or family member suffer a life-changing event, such as a motor vehicle accident while off duty, cancer, heart disease, or a liver issue, the county would be liable for the first $125,000. Cigna's actuaries made a request that of the approximate 2,000 insured individuals covered by the county's plan, that includes both employees and family members, we should account for approximately 2% of the insured members to have a life-impacting event that would cost the county $125,000 each, or approximately $5 million. According to GASB rules, we are required to book the liability for the contingency funds as listed in line item 579-150. This also requires us to have a revenue source for the expenditure liability. So our budget increased $5 million. We now have 1 year of claims data. The great news, we did not use any of the contingency funds, and we were able to return these funds from restricted fund balance. Restricted fund balance means the county is not allowed to use these funds for anything other than what the money was designed to pay. This is why Jenna presented the budget amendments Thursday, decreasing the fund balance requirements and aligning our budget to accurately show our financial position in and through our audit. That said, there are no hidden monies in our budget. There are no monies missing in our budget. And I would welcome any and all audits for the monies the county controls and would immediately support hiring any auditor or outside firm to determine and examine whether the books are complete and in full detail. Additionally, I've analyzed the month-over-month drawdowns for each department on their department-level group insurance budgets. My analysis indicates that the actuaries did a great job of defining our estimated cost, and Jenna did a great job at using the COBRA charges to assess the fees for each employee to ensure we have the monies required to pay for our health care and our pharmacy bills. That said, I would argue we all know that insurance is a gamble. We never know when a life-changing event will occur. Over the last few years, we've managed through COVID. We've also managed through a more aging level employee workforce and the potential of higher expenses for health care. We've transitioned from 25% of our employees eligible for retirement to now 17% eligible. We've seen many of our teammates retire. The policy of the county is to allow those who have retired, who are below 65 years of age, to participate in our health care plan until Medicare is available for them. These employees continue to be a part of our insured pool, and the county continues to be responsible for the $125,000 gap should these retirees suffer a life-changing event. These retirees are not within our departmental budget, yet the county is still responsible for the bills incurred. As highlighted by our insurance carrier, with an aging workforce, we can expect a higher statistical probability of significant health issues for single cases of $125,000 or above, such as cancer, heart issues, etc. That said, I believe after analyzing the odds, and yes, it is a gamble, we should remove the $5 million booked liability from the budget. This will reduce the revenue and the expenditure side of the budget. We will have funds in fund balance that we can pull from should we have an emergency requirement. And we will bring each incident to the Board of Commissioners for your consideration and approval should we hit that 125 threshold. Staff agrees there's not a need to burden our neighbors for these funds. Also, we have made the reduction of 100 beds in our correctional institute, both on the revenue side and the expenditure side. We've added the revenue for the contract signed with other jurisdictions, such as Henry County and Griffin Spalding School System, for their payment in offsetting our cost for housing inmates at the CI. We've included the 1.5 year cost for a pay study and pay increases for our employees, and 1.5 year cost for opening the aquatic center. Please know these funds we've added are only for half of fiscal year 24. What we have not included is, inside of this budget, is the cost for the restoration of Heritage Park. These funds are inside of the SPLOST funds, as we've discussed earlier today. Should the BOC make the decision to reduce the budget by $5 million to remove the contingency funds for insurance and to use the SPLOST funds for the completion of the Heritage Park gym, our millage rate proposed this year is 16.088 mills. Last year, our millage rate was 16.138. If you agree to a reduction in the millage rate of 16.088, this would be a rollback of 0.05 mills. Again, this proposed millage rate would provide you with the funds to complete a pay study, give much-needed pay increases to alleviate compression, and open the aquatic center. It would also give you the opportunity to roll back by 0.05 mills our millage rate and give some tax relief to our community. As an aside, the City of Griffin rolled their millage rate back, and the Griffin Spalding School System voted to adopt last year's millage rate. This would afford you the opportunity to provide a small rollback. If you notice on the screen in front of you, this is the tax levy for the 16.088 with a rollback of 0.05 mills from last year. Again, the homestead property tax grant is available this year. The governor signed that into place earlier this year, and it does afford us some tax relief. We've already covered the majority of this in several of our presentations, but just to give you an idea, this is an estimated tax bill in the bottom right-hand corner. This is what was sent out earlier this year. And the top is an actual bill based on the 16.088 mills that showcases the homesteaded tax relief grant and the savings that we would receive for that grant. This is an actual bill. In fact, it's mine. For last year, a $100,000 homesteaded property, the cost for taxes, which includes not only the county M&O, but the school board and the fire district tax, was $1,371.77. This year, on average, the county has experienced, through the valuations, not by this board, but through the tax assessors or Board of Equalization, a 20.86% increase in valuation. I've calculated that figure as well. So a $100,000 home last year, the increase in valuation would take that home to $120,860. The expected tax would be $1,514.81. For a home that's $350,000, the 20.86% valuation would take that home to $423,010 with an estimated tax of $5,280.17. As you can note in the bottom right-hand side of the screen, the homesteaded tax relief grant credit would afford $798.30 worth of tax credit relief. For a non-homesteaded home, $100,000 last year was $1,436.64 with a 20.86% valuation increase. That same property this year at $120,860 market value would be $1,755.47. For a $350,000 property that's not homesteaded, last year, $5,028.24, and with the increase in valuation, this year's tax is expected at $6,144.14. Where are we spending our money? This is the indication for where we are spending it. This information will be available for our public after the meeting with the inclusion of this material into the after agenda and the minutes. In 2015, the SPLOST vote, the citizens of Spalding County voted for the following projects. These projects continue to be a part of our budget through maintenance and operation. Where does the money come from? This is an indication for where our money is derived currently, with 83% of our monies coming from taxes, which include not only our property tax, but the taxes that we derive from the sale of timber, which is on the millage rate, or sorry, the 5-year tax digest, that we do get money for people who do sell their timber, because that is a harvest. It also comes from our local option sales tax. That's included in this figure as well. And then we've got charges and services that make up 8%, and only 3% of our budget is derived from fines and forfeitures. So again, this is our 5-year tax levy. The 16.088 mills affords us the opportunity to reduce it includes the reduction of 100 beds inside of our correctional institute. It includes $350,000 for the aquatic center to open in late January. And it includes money set aside for half the year to conduct a PACE study and to provide much needed pay for our employees. And at this time, I would entertain any questions.
Any questions from the commissioners? I'm getting ready to,
I've got a few.
oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So we talked about an audit. Is there any money set aside, and this is from our conversation last week, is there any money set aside for a forensic audit in this budget?
There is no money set aside for a forensic audit.
Just a regular audit?
That is correct. We are currently undergoing a regular audit with Malden and Jenkins currently, and they will produce their report typically right after the first of the year.
Well, we've got a new county manager. We're about to have, due to a well-deserved retirement, about to have a new financial officer. Plus all the changes that have happened, I think it's a very good time to have one. I think it would wildly increase transparency. I don't expect to find anything, but I think that there's a lot of stuff going on, not just with this government, with a bunch of other ones, that we need to take some steps to restore some transparency and understanding among the community. I think that we should do one of those. I think that we should obviously make those findings public, and I would encourage all the other governments, both local and up the chain, to do one as well. I think that everyone would only benefit, specifically the citizens. So, I know that we kind of talked about that this morning, but what are y'all feeling about that?
Definitely. Before you actually talk on that, Steve, just to kind of reiterate, the 5.2 million that was discovered was in the change of the insurance going to self-insured.
That is correct.
That's where it was. So it was a line item that was not, it was there, but it was an accounting function basically that showed that we budgeted twice for that, or?
Well, so we do budget the Cigna insurance in each one of our departments, but we have retirees who have left full-time employment with Spalding County who are not yet 65 years old. And the way our personnel ordinance reads, they are afforded the opportunity to purchase at 50% rate insurance, health insurance, and pharmaceutical insurance through the county. So we do not place those individuals inside of a department budget. Okay. They're not associated with the department. They actually are positioned inside of the general appropriations, and that $5.2 million has been sitting in that general appropriations fund. Kudos to Jenna and Erica. Kudos to our HR team. They put $5.2 million in there as a stopgap for any issues that may arise with health for those who are in the retirement area of our budget. And we did not use any of those funds. We had funds that remained inside the budget that we were able to use without going into that contingency, because that contingency was set aside as a restricted source from our fund balance. So anytime you restrict the fund balance, I'm now in a position where I cannot use those funds for anything other than what they were approved to be used for, which was insurance. So at the end of 23, fiscal year 23, that 5.2 million was still sitting there. And Jenna brought Friday to the workshop an amendment to move that, unrestrict those $5.2 million, because they were not used, they are not needed. Staff has gone back and done a thorough deep dive. We've looked at month over month for all of our insurance claims, and we are confident that we will not need those this year. If we do need monies for a life-changing event that is going to take $125,000 for us to satisfy, and it's above and beyond what we have currently listed inside of our department budgets, then we can bring those back to the commissioners on a case-by-case basis so that we can ask for the expenditure of those funds. Using those funds in that way, we feel would be much, much better for us as a community because we will not have to burden the budget, both on the revenue and the expenditure side, so we can have a balanced budget. We will not have to burden that budget to place those funds in the general appropriations line item at whatever the line item was. Please forgive me, I don't have it right off the top of my head. But we won't need to burden that budget. That's why early on in the presentation, we're indicating that we are reducing our overall budget from 121 to 119, but we're also keeping in a half year's amount of money for our increase in pay and the half-year amount of money for the increase in opening the aquatic center.
Just wanted that explained.
There's risk involved in doing that, right?
There is risk
If a bunch of people
involved.
get really sick,
You
we
said it's a
could really be in
gamble. It's a
trouble.
gamble.
It is a gamble. Insurance is a gamble.
But we've looked at this, we've analyzed the odds of the gamble, and have decided that rolling back and decreasing taxes is worth the gamble. Okay.
And if we do incur that, then he would come back to us and the 125,000 would have to be approved per basis.
That's correct. My expenditure my expenditure limit does not
Right.
allow me to go to 125.
Well, that's my next question. That's a benefit that we've given each of our employees. It's not like we get to say no. Hey, I'm sorry, we're not going to cover your cancer treatment. But I get that it's above the spending limit that we've set for you, so it would have to come back before us. But
Which is perfectly fine.
we kind of
because
got to understand, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have a knee replacement, that's $110,000 surgery.
Yeah.
You gotta go to rehab for 3 or 4 weeks, that's another $78,000 or $1,000.
Now,
We have people here who have bad knees.
Oh, absolutely.
we
Bad
do. Now,
shoulders.
remember, this $5.2 million is set aside just for the contingency, which includes the number of retirees that we have. So that contingency is,
Going away.
well, it's going away, but not inside of the departmental budgets. So there is money set aside for the departmental budget for those who are active employees for the county. So we're not having to
this is
worry
just for the
about that
retirees.
contingency. It's for the retirees with a portion of that money for employee family members. So those employee family members, if you've got multiple members who are involved in a motor vehicle accident, let's say you've got a family of 4 who's involved in a motor vehicle accident, God forbid that all 4 of them have an incident that is 125 each. Now you've got quite a number of funds that you're going to have to expend. That's where that contingency would come back to this board, and we would ask for your approval to take that out of the fund balance. That is the gamble.
So,
It can happen.
yeah, as I said, we gambled last year, and we got burned.
Well, did we?
Yes, because we took $7.5 million or $7.2 million to balance the budget,
Oh, I
and
see what you're
then we
saying.
had to use all the fund balance to pay for the tornado. So we basically have been going around from week to week trying to figure out where we're gonna get some money to pay the bills. So I'm not comfortable with gambling. I would like to know that we have a certain amount of money that is guaranteed for people. I don't know where this leaves us in terms of the fund balance, because saying we got $5 million in fund balance really isn't that. But I also have a problem with money being set aside that we can't account for, and I talked about that this morning. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Is that what we're doing up here, taking gambles? I'm not up here for that. I'm up here to say to people, this is what we have for you. This is how this is going to work. This is the expectation you can have for that. So it's a great idea. And by the way, this is not a contest. We're not competing against the school system, who gets multiple dollars from the federal government and from the state to operate, as well as well more taxes than we charge people to live here. And who else are we competing with? The city of Griffin? They revenue driven. They make money. They don't have to worry about taxes. We survive on taxes. And so it's very important to me that when we set up a budget, that we know that we're gonna have money for what we need. I mean, you know, we're, in one breath, we're saying we wanna help the employees get a pay raise, but in the other breath, we're saying that maybe if somebody gets really sick, we'll have to come back and vote to let their family pay for their stuff. I'm not comfortable with that, and it's just a matter of moving money around. I'd much rather have less money in the fund balance that we can operate with and have more assurances that should something happen, which if something is gonna happen, it will happen to someone who is 65 and older, or between 60 and 65, that's just how it is. I count that as taking away a benefit from our employees. The other thing that I have a concern about is you stated that we're just going to budget for 1 year for their salary. Okay, they didn't get anything this first part of the year. I mean, they got a 2% across the board cost of living, and the cost of living went up 10%. So we're saying to them, if we do this, you'll get a pay raise for half of the year.
Well, because we deal in physical years, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we're-
but I'm saying
With the next
that the
budget.
sheriff's department got a pay raise for the whole of the year. So why would we feel like we're throwing them a bone, because that's the only other terminology I can think, for our employees, by giving them half a year's increase in
So
salary?
I guess the plan is for the fiscal year of 2024 to look at this and see how we figure that in.
Well,
No,
the
this is
plan
what-
is
Well, I mean,
to immediately contract for a pay study so that we are paying our employees a fair and equitable rate. The plan is to do that immediately and bring that back in front of you so that we can have the information that we need to ensure that we're paying at the rate that needs to be paid. If we throw money at pay raises, that may cause an issue, because one of the challenges that we have is compression within our ranks. And the opportunity is to understand where those compression areas lie and make sure that we're taking care of all of our employees equitably.
But we're not.
I don't think,
We're
I don't
not.
think we
We're
are
not.
right now.
We're working
Yeah,
toward
we're
it.
not.
Working toward it. It's a start.
You know, everybody wanted police and fire to be at the shooting this weekend, but they're still getting the same little money they've been getting for the last 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to sit up here and say that I would, if I were a county employee, I mean, actually one getting a real check, I would be a little bit upset if I've lived this whole half a year and all you're talking about giving me some money for is the other half. And really, you don't even know that, because when we did the original thing for pay compression when William was here, it was almost $4 million that cost us, and that was a bunch of years ago. So what do we expect to be able to generate that will give a pay increase to our employees if we're budgeting $1.5 million for half a year for
We're
salary?
actually budgeting 2.1.
And the study is going to be $100,000?
Nope. Right now, from all of the information that I am receiving from my county manager counterparts, the pay study itself will cost between $24,500 and $33,000, and that's the range that they're giving me. And if we include on top of that the update to our job descriptions, that will be another $30,000. So we're talking right at $65,000 is the information that I'm getting. And these pay studies that were completed were just done within the last year.
Well, as I said, those are my concerns, and not just for the citizens, but for our employees who we expect to be there every time we call 911, every time a tree falls down, every time somebody calls an ambulance. But, you know, we have to pay attention to them.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what I'm saying.
This does open up the aquatic center effectively when we take receipt of it, when it's done being built and completed, right?
That is correct.
But that number is based on us also privatizing it and charging an entrance fee and charging activity fees and this kind of stuff, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And the part that I want to circle back to that we're all very excited about, the proposed budget that you just spoke about has a decrease in the tax rate. We are decreasing the millage rate, not increasing it. And it still keeps all the services that everyone expects, everything stays open. We're not closing any fire departments, we're not closing any collection centers. We're not closing any collection centers. We just want to say that 3 times. We're not closing collection centers. But what doesn't it include? Like, is there services that we're not performing or anything?
No,
And our
sir.
projects will be, all our projects will be complete.
Yes.
Including the
Make sure-
Heritage Park gym?
Let's make sure we say that.
Okay. I think that's, I'm very
But that was
excited.
it for me, so.
All right, everybody, any more questions for the county manager at this time from his presentation?
Ready for public hearing?
All right,
Need to move into public hearing?
yes. Can I have a motion?
Wait. Public hearing, doesn't that mean people get to talk?
Yeah, we gotta.
We haven't got there yet.
Motion to go into public hearing.
Thank you. Motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 5-0. Let me make sure everybody understands. I'm going to read the citizen comments sheet, so everybody should be, please pay attention. Speakers must sign up prior to the meeting and provide their names, addresses, and the topics they wish to discuss. Speakers must direct your comments to the board and not to individual commissioners or to the audience. Personal disagreements with individual commissioners or county employees are not a matter of public concern, and personal attacks will not be tolerated. The chairman has the right to limit your comments in the interest of disposing of the county's business in an efficient and respectful manner. Speakers will be allocated 3 minutes to speak on their chosen topics as they relate to matters pertaining to the jurisdiction of the Board of Commissioners. No questions will be asked by any of the commissioners during the citizen comments. Outbursts from the audience will not be tolerated. Common courtesy and civility are expected at all times during the meeting. No speakers will be permitted to speak more than 3 minutes or more than once unless the board votes to suspend the rule. We have the county attorney has a little beeper thing that will go off at your end of your 3 minutes. I will start gaveling to stop you for the next person to be able to speak. 1. 2, if the crowd gets, please, I know if people want to applaud and do all kinds of things like that. All that does is take a longer time, and the presenter gets stuck in the part that they're in. So please, don't do that. You'll hear me gavel if you start to get into that. Okay, everybody understand? All right, Dr. Ledbetter?
Mr. Ken Cook?
Good evening. I'm Ken Cook, 670 Patterson Road. I attended the first and second Spalding County Board of Commissioners.
Make sure you're close enough to the
Okay.
microphone so everybody,
Okay.
thank you, Ken.
I attended the first and second Spalding County Board of Commissioners public hearing concerning the proposed millage rate increase. Spalding County manager used a 2021 Georgia Tech research study to justify raising Spalding County property taxes. The big problem is the Georgia Tech research is on Effingham County and almost 3 years old. To wrongfully use the prestige of the Georgia Institute of Technology's research on Effingham County's irrelevant tax data is being disingenuous to the taxpayers of Spalding County. Our county manager said Spalding County invested a considerable amount of money in the 2042 comprehensive plan. Couldn't a considerable amount of money gotten us a Georgia Tech research on Spalding County instead of adding $11 million to the 2024 budget? County manager stated, "We have a major challenge in our budget." He should have accepted the challenge by lowering taxes in the 2024 budget. I don't understand why the Board of Commissioners is considering a millage rate tax increase when the Spalding County tax assessor has been raising our property assessment taxes through the roof. Raising the millage rate would be adding insult to injury. In closing, you, the Board of Commissioners, are the only ones that have full, complete authority over the 2024 budget. I'm asking you, the Board of Commissioners, to use your authorized power to cut the proposed 2024 budget and reduce the millage rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Laney Hook?
Good evening.
Good
Lanny
evening.
Hook, 148 McKinley Drive, Griffin, Georgia. You were talking a while ago about your auditors down in Macon. I think they've got a firmer grip on what's going on here than you're giving them credit for, and I think you ought to have a meeting with your auditors, find out just what you've actually got. I can understand insurance on employees, taking care of the people that work for you. I worked for you for 14 years. Benefits were great. Pay was okay, steady. Run inmates out of the CI over here. But you could be putting your inmates to a whole lot better use too, because there's a bunch of them, over 50% laying up in there that's not doing the work that could get done. You ought to think of that. Because there's a whole lot of road work out here that needs to be done, especially after these tornadoes that ripped through here. Back in 2010, it took us a month working with extra inmates, but they got her done. But I would suggest going down to your auditors and really getting a full grip. Because, you know, everybody knows taxes are going to go up, but this inflation we've got going today, they're talking about 11%. You're talking about 11% every year since. I'm looking at everything, figuring out by percentage, and I'm paying 40 to 50% more than I did in 2020. So think about that. You're not going to get away from this administration in Washington, and they're the ones who are really pushing our grief. But get in touch with those auditors. They might give you some good ideas. And they are professionals with those numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hook.
County Manager, I've got a question for you. What's the percentage of the inmates in the CI that work every day?
We're at about 85 or 90% right now. We've just reduced our inmate population by 100, with another 84 leaving us very shortly. So we've reduced our inmate population down to 200 inmates, which also reduces our expenditures because it costs us money to house those inmates.
How much does it cost about per day?
So the state gives us 22. It costs us about $40 a day to house an inmate.
So it actually cost us more than we get to house the inmate.
That's correct.
And again, I know this was raised earlier, but I wanted to ask you, the staff proposed rate for the millage rate is actually a lower rate. The staff is proposing rolling back the rate, not decreasing the rate, right?
That's
I heard that
correct.
earlier, right?
Last year's rate was 16.138, and proposed that we just presented was 16.088, so it's a reduction of 0.05.
Great.
Mr. Gary Peters.
Yep. Gary Peters, 442 Tulare Drive, Griffin. My speech has got to do twofold. I need to play two roles. One is a taxpayer and one is Spalding County. And this is based on a lot of things in the last two meetings. Taxpayer. I am so upset I just received my estimated tax bill for 2023. My home value went up by $81,000, and my county tax went up by $522 to $2,500. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. How am I going to afford this increase? That's 26% increase over last year. Spalding County. We understand in an inflationary economy, a lot of people are having a hard time making ends meet and care about our taxpayers. Really? Taxpayer, is there anything I can do? Spalding. Well, the state of Georgia has a grant that will be able to lower your tax bill. Taxpayer. So my tax bill will be lower? Spalding. Well, not really. Since you've gotten help from the state, we decided to increase the millage rate to 18.826. Your final tax bill will be $2,900, but you will get a credit of $338, so your final tax bill will only go up by another $62. Taxpayer, that means my taxes would have gone up $912, a 46% increase over last year if I had not gotten a credit. What's going to happen next year? I can't afford this. Spalding, I forgot to tell you, this grant from the state is only for this year. So your tax bill next year will be $2,900. Unless property values go up again, or we decide to increase the millage rate again. Spalding, Georgia, will you please send me a check for $338 that I had to reduce his taxpayer's bill so that I will not be out any money? Why do you stop short in telling the taxpayers the total truth? In the last meeting, you showed us a tax bill with the new millage rate along with the Georgia tax credit and the little effect it had on the current bill. You have never mentioned about the large increase next year when the grant would go away. We were told that the county had to use $7 million from the general fund to make ends meet for 2023. You had received $3.9 million in disaster funds from the storm damage. The fact is, you're getting back $8.2 million, and this will go into the general fund. Now Griffin Paper said in an audit, they found $5 million in additional valuable money that you may not even know you had. The county does not need this huge increase in millage rate. The taxpayers cannot afford it. Our pockets are empty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
County Manager, I'm sorry, I got a question for you. We can only vote 1 year at a time for millage rates, right? Like, we can't lock it in for multiple years. We can't, like, that has to be done each year by law, right?
That's correct.
And again, I know that in earlier meetings, the staff was requesting an increase in the actual millage rate, but we kept pushing back and saying, go look again, go look again, and go look again. We've finally been able to actually have a budget now that's decreasing the rate, right? We're not increasing the millage rate. We are decreasing the millage rate
That's correct.
as the staff required.
That's
right?
the
Okay.
proposed, yes. Brittany Baird.
Hi. My name is Brittany Beard, and I live at 525 South 6th Street. I'm here once again to plead with you as a representative of the working middle class. I've got to be honest, this was all a little much for me to take in, and ultimately no time to research it and understand it, so I'm speaking based on the past few weeks. I've been trying to understand how we got to this point, the history of the SPLOST vote that keeps being brought up, the budget, etc. I wanted to point out the part that's bothered me the most during all of this and bring it to your attention. I've read comments from commissioners on Facebook that state that they see no other way but to increase the taxes, and that we should read through the budget ourselves and find places to make cuts. And with all due respect, that's what we voted you in for. Not to mention the budget that is published online is impossible to follow and only as informative as you want it to be. For every one page that we have, I'm sure you have a binder elaborating on it. It feels to me, and I'm not sure if other people feel the same way, but it feels like this board doesn't want to be transparent, and that maybe the more that we know, the more we'll push back. And whether that's your intention or not, I can't say, but for the remainder of the time that you serve, I ask that you make the information that we need in order to form sound opinions readily available to us. Impact will always go further than intentions, no matter what they are. I find it hard to believe that the only options are to basically leave the millage rate the same to fund XYZ. It changes week to week what we're funding, or we cut from the collection centers, or we don't give county employees a cost of living raise, or we keep retirees from healthcare costs that they need. That approach has a scare tactic vibe to it, and it's reprehensible. So I'm pleading with the five of you to do what's right and just. I believe that this table right here is a table that Jesus Christ himself would flip over in the temple with the way that our money's been appropriated. You should not only vote to roll back the rate slightly, but vote to allow the rollback rate of 14.209 that we're supposed to have during this strained financial climate until next year when this audit has been completed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Beard.
County Manager, is there anything that's been given to us as board members that hasn't been made public, or any kind of numbers or budgets that aren't available online, or?
No, sir.
Is there anything that we were privy to that hasn't been put out?
No, sir.
Okay.
Tyler Beard.
Good evening. Board of Commissioners, Dr. Ledbetter, thank you for your time. I'm Tyler Beard. I also live at 525 South 6th Street, Griffin, Georgia. A lot of emotional and direct dialogue has been held at these meetings, all of which is a testament to the strong feelings this particular issue has raised. I feel this is also a prime example of the benefits of a political system that we are afforded in this country. A topic that came to my attention at the last meeting, it's a little bit off the beaten path, it's a topic Dr. Ledbetter brought up. He mentioned that unlike other counties, Spalding County lacks the business development that would potentially offset the tax burden, laying that burden firmly on us as the individual taxpayer. My question is, what effort is being made to rectify this? A quick search brings us to the gsda.net website, which is anyone quickly looks up will find is incredibly outdated and of no functional use in the tech-driven markets in which we are pursuing. In contrast, Henry County, which has a significant amount of tax-bearing industry, just 10 miles up the interstate, has the ChooseHenry.com website, which is modern and appealing with a plethora of information for prospective business. I feel this is a microcosm for a broader issue. When referencing the proposed 2024 budget, comparatively only $450,000 is allotted for the Griffin Spalding County Development Authority, all of which is only under other costs while other departments are broken down. I'd like to point out that this is less than the salaries of the 1,300 executive department. And by comparison, we plan on spending $250,000 on traffic lights. I use this point to highlight that a complete review of where these dollars are going and what would benefit the county going forward should be paramount. Only then should we consider projects such as the Aquatic Center or other non-essential endeavors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Beard.
Michael Middlebrooks.
Good evening. I'm Michael Middlebrooks, 1108 Maple Drive. The good Aquatic Center. It just keeps coming up. It's like a thorn in this county's side. So it started as a $4 million swimming complex, swimming pool, however you want to describe it. It's now at $10 million. Based on some research, $6 million out of an estimated $10 million of the American Rescue Plan money was added to that budget, to the $4 million plan, to make it a $10 million facility based on a facility that is housed in another county. That's from a May of 22 public meeting, and it was voted on and pushed in in the June meeting. Mr. Davis said that the people expected what they have in Carrollton versus what was planned here. I really don't care what Carrollton's got, and I really don't care, to be honest with you, how much money Carrollton spent to get it. I live in Spalding County. I don't care what another county's got. If the people of this county voted for a SPLOST and were sold an expectation of a $10 million facility, but the SPLOST was for a $4 million facility, basically, there's no other way to say it than that's just selling a used car that don't run. And to use the American Rescue Plan money to build a swimming pool, in my opinion, and then come back and deal with tax increase proposals, which, hallelujah, 0.050% rollback. Let me go, I couldn't even buy dinner, I don't think, with that money. If there's going to be a tax proposal at this point, the rollback rate's 14.2. If y'all just got to grasp the pockets of the residents and you just cannot, under any circumstances, find money to cut out of a budget somewhere, then I personally say there should be a happy medium here. If we're going to take it, and y'all are going to take it, it needs to go to 15. There's more ways to do this than unpaid purchase orders, $5 million insurance plans, contingency plans. And to be honest with you, I can't grasp somebody that doesn't work here anymore having insurance ability. If you retire, you retire.
County Manager, how much ARPA funds are being used for the Aquatic Center?
None.
So all of the Aquatic Center is all from SPLOST money?
That's correct.
Excess
Okay.
cost.
Excess loss.
All of the Aquatic Center is being spent by SPLOST money, right?
Excess plus, that's
Okay.
correct, yes, sir.
Just checking.
Brett Drake.
My name's Brent Drake. I live at 2084 Still Road. I don't really have anything planned. This is the last minute for me to get here, but just from real life, I was a home inspector for 10 years. I saw property values inflated due to low interest rates. So people were paying over what the houses were worth to get into them. Then the county turned around and inflated their property tax records to meet what people were paying for these houses. So all of our taxes went up, what we paid, because of the inflated home prices. All right, home prices are starting to come back down, but they're not coming down near as fast as they were inflated. You took a lot of money from us when they got inflated and they went up. Now you're wanting to take even more money from us. I'm just an average, everyday working Joe. I work hard to have what I have. I want to keep what I have. My money doesn't go as far as it used to, so I have to budget myself so that I can still keep my stuff up. The county needs to do the same thing. If they need to cut some money somewhere, they need to cut money somewhere. We do it as citizens. You know, our grocery bill that was $150 is now $300. So where do we get that money? Well, we don't get to go on a trip that we planned on going on. So maybe the county needs to back off of some of their little special projects and quit taking money out of the citizens' pockets. Because you're gonna price us out of the county. A quick Google search for me, don't know how accurate it was, says we're the second highest taxed county in the state of Georgia. If that's true, I don't see it around here. My road, they've been patching potholes for 10 years out there and ain't done them right yet. That's a waste of money. Go out there, fix the pothole one time, and fix it correctly. We're spending money repaving dead-end roads around me. My road's a main road where a lot of people come through on it, but yet all they're doing is patching the potholes. So let's waste the money paving a subdivision that has 10 houses down there, because maybe it has one pothole, but let's leave a street that's bumpy and everything else. So that's just wasted money. The county needs to quit wasting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake.
Ken Smith.
Ken Smith, 935 Campground Road, Griffin, Georgia. It's my understanding the county budget for 2024 was submitted for Spalding County that would require a millage rate of 18.826. This increase would give Griffin a cumulative rate of 41.822 according to Sylvia Hollis, the tax commissioner of Spalding County. The people of Griffin would be the highest taxed city in the state of Georgia, with Atlanta being second, having a rate of 40.470. This is not an award, and it's usually a sign of overspending and mismanagement of tax revenues. Imagine as an elected official, the legacy you leave behind was the most burdensome tax levy left on any city across the state of Georgia, which covers some 59,000 square miles. When a proposal this extreme is brought before an elected board, we would expect the initial response to be shock, unbelief, and anger. It would be reasonable for our elected representatives to reject a tax increase in the middle of 20% inflation, gas prices nearing $4, large increases in auto and home insurance rates, increased fair market property values, and record high grocery bills. We know the county went through a tornado, but so did we. We had to pay deductibles and non-covered costs. We lost wages. We took a hit as well. The only difference is we don't get our money back. Before ever considering a tax increase, increasing the tax burden should be the last option. If there's a $5 billion mistake, it should be discovered before giving ear to someone suggesting a tax increase. In my research, I've discovered several problems with property tax. Please let me to share one of those. 149 Spalding Street is across the road from the tax assessor's office. The tax evaluation is $43,358. The house was purchased in August of 2021 for $70,000 and is for sale today for $229,000, and according to the owner, the price is firm. My home was valued at $204,000 in 2021 and $348,000 in 2023. When I asked the tax appraiser's office why my tax evaluation was so high, they responded because of reevaluation to fair market. When I asked why the value at 149 Spalding Street was so low, not one person had an answer. And I found many properties grossly undervalued in my research. I found area after area that was assessed at a quarter of fair market value. The tax assessor's office told me these properties would be reassessed and brought up to fair market value next year. If that's true, shouldn't the county manager and commissioners know, especially before pushing for the second property tax increase in 1 year? Griffin has many homes valued at $30,000 to $40,000 with fair market values of $120,000. I've been a pastor in this community for 32 years. I've never seen people struggling financially like they are now.
Adam Smith.
Adam Smith, 965 Campground Road. So I've heard some good things tonight, and I've heard some troublesome things tonight as well. My property taxes for me went up over right at $1,000 from last year to this year. That's just based off of the reassessments. So now we're also faced with an increased millage rate or a rollback. The troublesome thing that I've heard tonight is exactly my worst fear coming into this meeting, is that we would come in here and you would tell us that you're going to reduce the millage rate by 0.05, correct? 0.05 mils, and you would sell that to me as a good thing. Like you're doing me a favor by reducing that by 0.05 after you've already increased my taxes by $1,000 year over year. The year before that, I believe the difference was $800. So in 2 years, I have faced a tax change in nearly $2,000. My homeowner's insurance has doubled in the last 2 years as well. I now pay more for taxes and insurance than I do to own my home. I am paying you more for permission to have my home there than I am to pay the bank and the person that built the home. So for you to come in here and tell me that a 0.05% rollback is doing me a favor is insulting. So here I am asking you all to do the right thing according to the people that you claim to represent in this county. We trusted you. We put you in this office. As I have talked to people in this county, I have come to find that nobody wanted to come to this meeting because they didn't feel like it would matter. And what we've heard tonight is showing that what we have to say and what we believe does not matter because you've already made your minds up coming into this meeting. There are a lot of people here tonight, but there's a lot of people missing, and that should bother you more than the amount of people that are in this room because they don't trust you enough to bring the truth to you and for you to take care of what needs to be taken care of in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Steve Stevenson.
Good evening. My name is Steve Stevenson. I live at 134 Little Gym Court here in Griffin. The commissioners should not vote this evening to approve the tax rate of 20%. You just shouldn't do it. Last year, you approved a 17% increase. You were about to vote on a 41% increase until this morning. Now you're asking us to accept a 20% increase. All within inflation, according to the Consumer Price Index, is now less than 4%. You're asking us to accept a 20% increase in our taxes. Home prices are down year over year in Spalding County. You will not see this 20% increase in assessed value next year. So you're addressing a significant increase in millage rate next year to get your 20% again. I attended the meeting this morning, the work session. I was shocked at the conversation. At least some of the commissioners are not aware the additional $6 million to fund the building of the aquatic center came from quote-unquote found SPLOST funds. A miracle occurred and we found SPLOST funds. We didn't have to use the ARPA funds. A large part of the justification in lowering the tax increase from 41% is 20% is kind of shuffling the deck on how we fund some of these healthcare expenses. Going to a fully self-insured plan is risky. It is uncertain. So no one with any certainty can say we have it covered because you just don't know if you're fully self-insured. These are not small numbers being tossed about, 5 million here, 6 million there. You commissioners are affecting the livelihood of everyone in Spalding County. You need to have complete trust and confidence in what you're voting on. I feel for you. Listening the last few days, to me it seems like a shell game. How do you keep track of what the dollars are coming from? I wouldn't be in a position to say with any confidence I can vote on it. I don't know how you guys can do it either. What is needed is a complete review of the accounting practices, policies, and reporting, including reporting to the commissioners in public. There should never be any $5 or $6 million surprises at the 11th hour here when we're voting on these millage rates. That's just totally unacceptable. There's no way, again, you can be comfortable with the numbers. I would recommend you guys consider, I know you got to keep the county running and other jurisdictions are waiting to get these tax bills out. Go back to that rollback rate. It's there for a reason, to keep you equal for the last year of that 14.2. If you would have approached a reasonable increase of, say, 5%, but a 20%, 41%, it's just totally out of question here. I'm a retired CPA with 40 years of experience. Dealing with mergers and acquisitions, private equity, going into troubled asset companies to try and see what's going on. I'm willing to offer my services for free to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson.
Bruce Ledbetter.
Good evening. My name's Bruce Ledbetter, no relation. I know one of my main concerns is the Aquatic
What's your
Center.
address, sir?
And Miss
Thank you.
Taylor and Miss...
Could you state your address, please, for the
Oh,
record?
240 Robert Street, Griffin, Georgia,
Thank you, sir.
30224. Miss Johnson and Miss Taylor, we're going back in 15, going back and forth about this Aquatic Center and the cost and all the other stuff. And this thing went from advertised for the tax, splash tax, as this magnificent playground for $4 million. Now, for another $8 million added on this budget, this thing is nothing but a swim team. There's nothing there for anybody in Griffin that want to come. Absolutely nothing. The second thing, Mr. Dutton last week said he'd love to find some money. Well, I went through the budgets for the last several years, and between transportation, computer software upkeep, and computers, there's millions of dollars that, yeah, that's a lot of money for software upgrades. And that's my main concern is what you're putting in the budget. These line items are not just in this department, one line item. They're in every account number on the budget. And they're thousands of dollars and 20s of thousands of dollars. And it just seemed like a waste of money. That's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Art
Thank you, Mr.
Ross.
Yeah, I'm declined.
Okay.
Mark Kirkland.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Kirkland. Let's see if I remember it this time. Forgot it last time.
Your address, please, sir?
4630 Nooner Road, Griffin, Georgia. Been here a long time. That's about third grade. Just going to hit a couple things. I know I only got a few moments, but I'm going to give you some hard facts. This is why I want to hear what my cost is. 3 years ago, $2,900 were my taxes. Last year, it slid in on me and ramped up to $3,400. Well, okay. This year, my tax bill is $4,200. And that's real money. There ain't no evaluation. There ain't a bunch of charts. I can't understand all that stuff. I'm not studying it. I'm here for a couple meetings. But what I show you is real. And that's what these folks are talking about, real money, their livelihood. Somebody said working man. It is working. It's not working. It's property tax owners. But if you're renting, the property taxes are going to go up. The rent's going to go up. So it literally affects everybody. Now, I don't know if there's any kids here or not, but I believe in Santa Claus, and I will share this with you. When I was growing up, some years Santa Claus had bigger pocketbooks than other years. And I think this is what most of us is talking about. We always want to better ourselves. I got my youngest Well, my youngest car is 2013. My oldest one is a 2001. I'm not going to buy a car right now. I can't afford a used car. I can't. When it comes down, I might. And I think that's what we're talking about here. We all got wish lists, and we wish for a lot of things, but we ain't got the money to pay for it. I think we need to back off. Just get what we need to survive right now. And that giving back on the millage rate, you know, we proposed 18, you give them back down to 16, whatever. I don't really think we give them much. You just kind of back off a little bit. I do believe that somebody said about compromising. Now, it was 14, make it 15. I think most people might can live with that. We understand it costs y'all, us, to live here. But when you're bleeding us dry, I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of big increase. And a lot of people just can't afford it. I mean, me and my brother's talking, and I mentioned it last time. I mean, my kids are grown. I don't got to stay in this county. But if I move somewhere, everybody knows what the cost of building is right now. Have to be a little bit further down the road. My drive might be longer. But I got a lot of good memories in this county. I like Spalding County. It was good for me growing up, good for my kids growing up. I don't want to leave. But who's going to buy my house with a high tax bill? We're looking at all that. I mean, I don't want to come and throw a bunch of facts and figures and stuff, but that's what I got to say.
Thank you, Mr.
Hard
Kirk.
facts.
Sandy Daniel Jackson.
I'm Sandy Jackson. I live at 53 Mobley Road. So I don't even know for sure why I'm at this meeting tonight. I was told to come because of some stuff I'm trying to do on my property. So I got thrown into this, but I just want to say, I wanted to come up and say, I'm new, all right? I moved here from Colorado a year and a half ago. I've watched properties in Colorado go sky high and get ridiculous. And where the common person can't live anymore, and people are moving out because they can't raise their families there. And people are moving in that have changed the state and made it exactly what I didn't want it to be. I moved here because I could afford to live here better than I could in Colorado. But my husband and I owned a commercial property in Colorado that our property taxes were not as high as what I have to pay on my home. I'm a widow now and I live alone, and my son's been trying to help me. So coming here and hearing all of this tonight has made me a little nervous about did I make a right decision in moving to Georgia, period, but especially to this county when you tell me that your property taxes are higher, the second highest in the state of Georgia. That's pretty scary. Georgia has half the population of Colorado with twice as many people. And if this little town that seems so quaint to me, the property taxes are that high, it's scary. I also know that you're going to drive people out. If people can't afford it, they will move. But if the property taxes are too high, people will not come in. And if you don't have people moving in and you don't have anybody to tax, then this county will dry up and it will die. So it sounds to me like there's some very hard decisions to be made, and this makes me a little nervous that I'm here, new, in the middle of it, not exactly know what's going on and trying to make a living as a widowed woman. So thank you for letting me say this.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Chairman, that is all who have signed up this evening.
Any comments from you? Anybody comment, questions or something that they want?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Do I have a motion to?
Motion to come out of public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 5-0. I want to thank everybody for coming. I know that you all think that we sit up here and we've already made up our minds and tax stuff is already done and things like that. I can tell you that that is not the truth. We want to hear. In the end, we had about 60 or 70 people come in out of the community to say what they've got to say. The numbers are not so important as the facts on specific issues that they wanted us to address, and we've looked at that, so we appreciate that. All right. Next item is approve the, a proposal and approval of the millage rate for FY 2024. All right? There isn't any right number that everybody out there will agree with, so where are we?
How much is 1 mil in revenue?
At what millage rate?
So
What?
the difference in the millage rate
Difference
is
in
based
what?
on the city, on the county. So for us, it could be 1.5 or 2. For Henry, it could be like 12.
No, for us, like if,
Give me just a minute.
Everybody hear the question, is how much is a millage, a mill rate? The difference really and truly is massive between one county and the next county. Some mills, as an example, depending on if you have 200,000 people there versus our 60 or 70,000 people here, is huge numbers difference. Our millage rate, the county manager is getting it, I'm going to estimate it somewhere $1 or $2 million. You get into Henry County and it may be 10 or $15 million per mill. So there's a huge difference in trying to do that.
So 1 mil is $2,568,802.46.
Okay.
That's 1 mil?
Yes, ma'am.
so the overwhelming majority of our total budget comes from tax revenue,
That's correct, 83%.
and the overwhelming majority of that comes from residential taxes.
That's correct.
Which percentage of that is how many owners do we have here, homeowners? Percentage?
Yeah, what's the?
It's split for the county at 70-30 for us, homeownership versus renters.
70% of that is homeowners that we're,
That's correct.
And does that number include the city? Like, that's a total of the whole county, including the city, or is that just the county?
For the city, it's the inverse for renters versus owners. So it's a 30-70 split. But the millage rate is for everyone in the county, which includes city residents as well.
So all total weighted between city and county, it's what's the renter versus homeowner
I
split?
don't have that number. I did ask specific.
67%
Renter?
to 30, yeah,
Yeah.
countywide.
Yeah, 67% renter, something like that, 67, 68.
Yeah, I actually asked for it county, unincorporated, and then city incorporated, and it was an inverse 70-30 for the unincorporated and 30-70 for the city.
So we, in the future land use map and the comprehensive plan, we have set up areas where we're trying to encourage industrial growth so that this tax base can move from off of the
Residential.
30% homeowners paying all these taxes
Or the 70%
onto.
for the unincorporated, that's correct.
So, but again, that's just from the unincorporated Spalding County. So if you take the total of all residential in Spalding County, city and county, it's somewhere around 69% rental, right? So again, 31% of the total inhabitants of all of Spalding County own their own homes.
I would dare venture that it is a higher rate for ownership because there are more residents inside of the county. But
Okay.
yes. And yes, we do have a part of our future land use map in accordance with our 2042 comprehensive plan. We have identified areas for industrial and manufacturing growth, which includes the Arthur K. Bolton Boulevard as an employment corridor, the commercial growth in Tri-County, the commercial growth in the overlay district for the North Expressway, and then the overlay district for the area that travels out toward Fayetteville at 92.
let me ask a question. Okay, so I know, as we know, the proposal was 18.826. We're not looking at that by no means. We know that now. Current millage rate is 16.138. We thought it was a big deal that we were able to get this down to 16.088. We feel like it's a big deal. I know folks are saying maybe 15. I think 15 sounds good. However, could you explain what would that look like at 15? what would you have to cut? What would that look like for this county? And trying to do everything that we're trying to do to take care of the services and also with our employees, not cutting the trash like, James had mentioned before.
We're not closing
Providing the services that we're trying to do right now and just being
not
real, because we got to talk about it. You cut, things cost. So what would that look like?
That'd be a $2.5 million decrease.
That's correct. It would be $2.5 million as one mill, so you've got the
.08,
16.088, it would be the .088. That would be, let's call it round and say 2.7 million. So that would reduce our ability to fund pay raises for our employees and not open the aquatic center, and we could survive. But again,
Mr.
that
Chairman,
would,
you need to be quicker on that gavel.
that would go against what the SPLOST vote was for. Recognizing that there is maintenance and operation requirements for all of our projects that we build through our SPLOST, that is one of them.
Can you speak into the mic?
Sorry. So recognizing that there is maintenance and operations for the buildings that we construct, the substantial completion for the aquatic center is December. So we will be required to perform maintenance on that building from January through the end of the fiscal year.
So even if it's not open.
Even if it's not open, that's correct.
But we're required by that 2015 vote to build that by law, whether we want a $10 million aquatic center. That includes more than just a swimming pool. It actually has a recreational pool and a pool that can be used for physical therapy. We're required to fund and build that whether we want to or not.
That's correct.
So, I just think it's inappropriate for us to try to sit here and figure out what the millage rate is gonna be. If there's some
our whole
indecision
job.
about, whether or not we need to roll back more, or we need to stay, then we just don't need to vote on it tonight. And I know y'all want to vote on it tonight. Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna need for you to hit that
No,
gavel a little bit more.
I agree. Come on, y'all.
But clearly, we've had an opportunity to roll back. You can roll back every year. We have not been financially able to. So that's the first thing for me. I am not pressured because this room is full. I'm glad that y'all are here. I wish you had been here for the last year while we've been trying to figure this out, but I'm glad you're here today. But what I know is I live in East Griffin. No, I don't have a lot of money. I pay the same fees that everybody else pays to live in the city of Griffin. I'm not making any money, and I know about making decisions going from one check to the other. But also, you elected us to make responsible decisions. And when people vote for something in this community, if it were something that you voted for, you would want to see that carried out. So can you let me finish talking?
Come on, guys, please.
So what I'm saying to you guys is I hear you asking about rolling taxes back. You're asking about millage rate.
We're just
We
talking.
clearly are not ready
Right.
to make a decision. I mean, y'all can vote on it if you want to, but, obviously, there's been some change in your decision-making processes, and I believe that several of us, not me, thought that it was a big deal that you were dropping the millage rate that much. As I said this morning, insignificant. You cannot please, this group and the rest of our citizens will not be pleased unless they get the rollback to 14, and we know that we can't afford to do that. We have a responsibility to every taxpayer in this community, and whether that's to provide roads, whether it's to provide transportation, whatever that is, that's what we signed on for, and that's what they elected us for. And the one lady who said, we don't need to come and get all this information because that's what we got y'all up here for. Yes and no. The bank takes care of my money in the bank, but I check my account every week, okay? So you need to do your homework right along with us. But my idea is that y'all are not ready.
Well, let
to
me
make
just say
vote.
this, whether or not we're ready or not, I mean, let's just be realistic. I know we're having people come out, we're having to put this off 2 more weeks. The bottom line is if we're not gonna do this, I mean, what is the realism that we're gonna actually go to anything less than the 16.088?
Well, it wouldn't be 2 more weeks, because we'd have to renotice the paper, so we'd have to have 3 more hearings.
No, it
No.
would just be one more
It
hearing.
would just be one more hearing, we just renoticed for one more hearing, okay.
We've done the 3 public
Right.
hearings.
So I don't wanna just,
another hearing.
I don't wanna just,
Okay.
waste, if we're serious about this and we feel like we can find any additional money for this, we don't wanna continue to cut things. It's not gonna be right for the citizens. That's not right either. We're currently at 16.138. Going down a little bit to 16.088, I know may not be, great for everyone, but it's certainly not as high as we really want, but we thought we were gonna have to propose, and I'm glad that we're not doing that. So, for the sake of being real here, I just think it's right that we go ahead and move forward with this, unless we're really serious about, and being realistic, that we're gonna find something that we're gonna be able to cut to get it down, that's gonna be something for all of us. I don't know if we can do that. I don't know if I'm sitting here by myself with
I'm
this.
just saying, I know that's not possible. I mean,
Gwen, talking to the microphones.
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. I said, I know that that's not possible, because if you're willing to cut one thing, then you should be willing to cut multiple things.
Yep.
And for the people who are here that are very, very interested about making sure that the recycling centers stay open, there are this group of people who have been waiting for 10 years for the aquatic center. And that is their concern.
Right.
That's their concern. And the people who voted for Heritage Park and Fairmont revitalization,
Right,
they have been waiting.
sure.
So yeah, everybody's got their own agenda for this, but we still can't, we have to be looking at this in a unified way, that we're doing the greater good for the greatest number. And if that means treating people equally for all of their project needs, that's what we've been charged to do. So, I mean, if y'all don't want to do anything different, then we should go ahead and vote for the millage rate that was suggested by the chairman. I'm not gonna vote for it, but I say go ahead and vote. There's nothing else left to cut.
So we, as Spalding County, both citizens and the board, we need to do more to get the burden off the residential taxpayers, the homeowners of Spalding County, and onto an industrial base and a commercial base. However, earlier this year, when we were building, or people coming to have stuff rezoned and, plats done for industrial buildings in our industrial corridor, our room was almost as full as this with people against it. And so every time that we've tried to say, yeah, let's shift our taxes from the homeowners onto, like Henry has, like Fayette has, virtually every county has, from homeowners paying all the taxes to industrial and commercial paying all the taxes, we get a room full like this that says, no, we don't want industrial, not in my backyard. We want it to stay exactly like it is, with the tax base coming from residential homeowners. So I think that we need to do more to encourage that industrial growth in a correct way, in a way that doesn't change the landscape of Spalding County, in a way that doesn't impede on the people that have lived here like me my whole life, and yet can take the burden off the taxpayers here. That is to say, there's lots of people who oppose that. There's lots of people who we've heard from tonight that are clearly for that. But when those things happen, these people don't come out and say, no, this is really great. This is a great way to take this burden off of my shoulders and put it off on some company. It's the same thing, like Gwen said. When in 2015, other boards, 3 of us weren't on the board then, we're hearing from, what's this wish list of SPLOST stuff? We had a room full like this saying, well, we want this, we want this, we want this. Those people aren't here tonight. The Griffin Raiders aren't here tonight going, no, please, we don't want you to sell our pool. We want you to open our pool. They're not here tonight arguing for that. We don't have the Fairmont Alumni Association here tonight saying, don't think about cutting back from Fairmont and Heritage Park. And so what we have is people that say, hey, this part's not fair, but we're in this sort of damned if you do triangle of, well, do we cut services? Well, no, you can't cut services. Okay, well, do we increase industrial growth? No, we don't want to increase industrial growth. You know, we want everything to stay exactly like it is. Okay, well, then do you want to increase in taxes? No, we can't increase tax. So those three things can't live like they are. So it's going to take not only us actively working to improve the county like every other county has done and going to a more industrial, more commercial base, but it's also going to take our citizens coming out and speaking at these meetings and saying, hey, I get that you want 100 acres of woods next to you, but I'm so sorry, you live in the industrial corridor, and they're going to plant a berm, and we've got to do stuff to increase our, industrial and commercial tax base. So, again, I sit on the Griffin Spalding Development Authority. I've seen the hundreds of millions of dollars that they have brought in investment to this county in the last 6 years alone, with the tiny amount that we give them. And we even decreased that development amount by $50,000 this year in this budget, trying to find ways to cut back. And yet, that money could have helped us move from it being on the back of the residence and onto industrial and onto, these larger commercial properties that we have an area zoned for. We have a giant 4-lane with a median for it, and yet when modest proposals for stuff come in, we get a room full like this saying no, no, no. And when I came forward and I said, whatever the state allows us to raise our impact fee to, aka how much we can charge these folks who come in and develop, these folks who come in and build houses, these folks that come in, I said that should be whatever the state maximum should be. The folks from out of town should pay, all right, their fair share, just like everybody else in this room have. And I was opposed by that. I was opposed on that. Okay? So when I come in and I say, hey, we need to do stuff to increase the fine amounts, increase fee amounts. No, we can't do that. Okay, then the tax burden stays on people like me who live in Spalding County and always have. And so that needs to change. This is a long-term plan. I know everyone says, yeah, that's a great idea. And yet, when we get a room full of people in here that say we don't want it to happen, it somehow doesn't. How many times did that Tomachichi project come back up and come back up and come back up and come back up? Things have to change. I love Spalding County. I want to live here. I want my grandkids to live here. But, we can't put the whole county in a time capsule. All right? Things have to, you're either developing in one part of that triangle, right, or another. Either the taxes are going up, either there's more industrial growth, or we're cutting services. People don't want to cut services. People don't want their taxes to grow up. That leaves the third angle of that triangle.
So realistically, we're not going to be able to get it down less than 16.088%. I don't think how many times we actually push these meetings back. Realistically, we're at 16.138. We talked about keeping that one. We're able to kind of move it back a little bit to 16.088. To sit here and kind of act like that we're going to be able to do something different, and to bring people back out here for this when we know we can't do it is a waste of time, okay? And it's, and I don't want to do that to anyone. It's a matter now of just being very upfront and honest that we can't do it. We're able to, we have moved the needle in the right direction, and unfortunately we can't move it as far as you want us to. I hate it. I do. But, I just think it's time that we be real about this, and do it unless anybody has anything else different. Because I don't want to keep doing this. We did this with Tomachichi, if you recall, and we ended up with the same, So I don't want to keep doing this if it's not going to.
But we cut the size of that building repeatedly.
Yeah, and look what we've done here. Even though it may not be what is the 14 or the 15. We're talking maybe not, but we've got it to 16.088.
Well, I'm listening. Oh, sorry.
Like I said, realistically, I just don't know if we're going to be able to do any more than that, and I don't want to set anybody up. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's right. So unless others feel differently, we may have to go ahead and entertain a motion and move this on, because we're only going to hurt ourselves if we don't. How does anybody else feel about this?
Commissioner Bolden?
When I come in here this morning, the highest last week would have been 16.138 from your 18. That's the highest I would go. Now, that 18 is equivalent to the 16.088. And since I thought there was kind of some unity and there's several people done kind of veered off on it, I mean, I don't work for y'all, I don't work for the employees, and I really feel strongly about this, because I have family that are hurting it. I've had people had to hit me up and borrow money. They're like, we're gonna have to borrow money this year to pay my taxes. I'm for the rollback. I mean, I have to be for the rollback. I mean, that's all my beliefs. I mean, that's everything I run for this office for. I mean, I love every one of y'all, and I respect all y'all's decisions, but I have to be for that rollback. I'm just sorry.
Okay, let's,
So if I might ask Commissioner Boland a question. So how do you propose that we present a budget that reflects that?
All right, there's a lot of fat to trim, and I mean, this is stuff I've been kind of looking at with Park Ridge. Get rid of some of these parks. You got entirely too many parks. You got Quarry's Edge. You got park. There's nobody there.
talk into your microphone.
We got a lot of parks there. We're Park Ridge. We need to get rid of some of these parks. The county, we have a lot of land that we own. We're not in the real estate business.
Right.
We need to start getting rid of some of these property. We have a lot of valuable property in areas. It's a burden on us to keep up with all these properties, get rid of them. Like I said, the parks, we have several parks that we, like Tice and, the new aquatic center. If y'all want to have some great parks, focus on several. Don't have all these little bitty pocket parks everywhere. It's a burden on everybody. Because we're having to take care of them, cut grass, bid out all this work. I mean, there's a lot of places we can cut. And I know we got a year to dig into all this to find some more cuts, but these are just some of the things that I've been thinking about here lately.
So I'm just trying to figure out where the pocket parks are that you're talking about.
I mean, there's parks, like, I'm just gonna use like Quarry's Edge over there. How many people use Quarry's Edge? I've never set foot over there. I love having the parks. I love having the green space, but it's honestly a waste. From my perspective, my district, we have one park in my whole district, and it's Tice Park, and it is so far out of the way, nobody ever gets to use it. I mean, a lot of people like to use the walking tracks, Airport Road, that's one of the greatest parks we got. You go through there and there's 15, 20 people using it at all times. But we don't have anything out on my side. So that's why I'm like I used to live on Cowan Road right there, right next to it, and I never went over there, you know. The only time I ever went over there for like the pickleball games is when I was a deputy to go take a leak. That's the only time I ever used the park. So I mean, it's important to have them, it's important for our youth, but it's just a waste of money for a lot of the community.
I've heard arguments like this from other people as well. I told some of y'all, we had somebody call me up and say that we should close some of our fire stations, that our response times were too high and we were wasting too much money on fire. And I encouraged him to come in and say that in the microphone and pitch that to the public to cut fire coverage, because I certainly wasn't going to do it. But there might be a compromise position here. 2.57 is 1 mil. We're looking at doing raises for around 2 million. If we were to lower that, right, by $1 million, which would cut the raises in half. Again, we've got a bunch of county employees that are hurting, but we got a bunch of citizens that are hurting. That would let us roll back even further.
That's a no-starter.
So if we lowered that by $1 million, that's 5, 20. No. If we would like
Chairman,
15.5.
where are you,
I
Chairman?
think
Where are you at in this?
I would lose a few $100,000.
I came in saying 14, so everybody knows. Now, that's not where the group is. I think Commissioner Bolden is there. The numbers that the county manager has talked about, if we go to 14, the number of services that will be either reduced or eliminated is almost unbearable to us to be able to do that now.
I'm glad you said that.
Now, 15, I can raise my hand for 15. Is that tight? I don't believe there's any of us out there that isn't tightening our belt on our home budgets right now. So I was 16.088 is the recommended staff position. I understand that. Started at 18. We've come down from 18 to 16. I don't think we can come down to 14, but I can sure look at 15 and say, hey, this is tough times all the way around for the citizens. So the point I'd like to make to everybody out there, those of you that thought we all had a number in mind and we were all going to walk in here and just our mind was made up, I'm sorry, that's not what's happening with us.
Yeah, whoever told you that was misleading you.
Secondly, I would suggest to you that you should be very proud of the commissioners that you have and the diversity of thought that we have. You hear one of us talk about one thing and one of us talk about another thing and another one talk about another thing. That is really very, very good for you, in my opinion. It covers everybody's perspective that we think about. So that's a good news story. If we walked in here, slammed the gavel down and said, we're doing it at 18 or 16, 14, whatever, all of us went one way,
So
you should take a look at that and say, hey, where's the diversity of thought, just like where's the diversity out there? All right,
What's
So
the
real-
full rollback
May I ask
rate?
a question?
14,
So,
Even?
May I ask a question
14,209.
about next year?
14,209.
Okay, so county manager, because you got to talk about next year, okay? So if let's say we did adopt the rollback of 14, what does that do realistically for next year? I like to deal with the realism of this. What does that do next year? Because
So-
what we're doing now, it sets the stage for next year. I want to make sure
It
we know
does.
that.
So the rule of thumb for us, if you look back at the valuations, is we use approximately 7% for the year-over-year valuations increase. And that affords us the opportunity to look at what millage rate we will propose for next year, starting around the January, February timeline, so that we can go into the budget season. We do not have the full understanding of what the digest is going to be until the end of August, the beginning of September. But again, this board does not set the digest valuations. That's set through the Board of Equalization and Appraisals. And they're mandated by state law for how much they provide the rollback, the digest. And the tax commissioner works through the rollback based on the local option sales tax. One of the things that we have noticed over the last 3 years is that there has been a downward trend in our local option sales tax collections, percentage-wise. This year it was at 3.12, so it was lower this year than it was last year, and last year it was lower than it was in '21. So that's a reduction in the amount of money that's coming into our local option sales tax, which again goes back to the tax rate. The challenge that I have with the millage rate for next year is that what we're all seeing, all of us are seeing, which is the increase in goods and services across the entire board. We're seeing it just like you do at home. Gas prices, water prices have increased for us. Electricity prices have increased for us. Vehicle prices have increased for us.
Loss of
In
tax
fact,
revenue.
you know, because we had to approve fire trucks more than 16 months ago so that we could have them delivered in January and February, because it was an 18 to 24 month time period for the construction of a fire truck. That's true with the other vehicles that we have. We're seeing an extended amount of time between order and delivery for all of our vehicles, which is required to do the things that you've asked us to do, which is fill potholes, take care of roads, cut grass, and it's a challenge. Next year, what we have projected for a millage rate for next year, should we have the 7% increase in valuations that we have from year over year as has been the trend, yes, we're looking to stay right around the 16 mil for the millage rate. What we have noticed over year for the past 5 years is that staying right around the 16.2 mils for year over year is the trend that goes back even much farther. When we look at the 2018 millage rate, it was 16.5. It was reduced to 16.138, and it has stayed at 16.138 for the last 2-3 years. And that seems to be where, for our county, that seems to be where the sweet spot is for the revenues required in order to satisfy the funds needed for our revenues. Back to Commissioner Dutton's comments, the industrial and manufacturing component, yes, the manufacturing component for bringing workforce in for manufacturing companies, the Industrial Development Authority does provide some pilot for those companies, which means that they are afforded some tax breaks for bringing in a certain number of employees. But for warehouses, that's not true. Warehousing is an immediate taxation. They go on the books for taxing the day that they are opened. So there are opportunities for us moving forward, but I hope that answered your question.
Okay, before going, I'm gonna just make sure, because I need to get this point. The point I'm trying to make here is this, as far as being consistent. So keeping it at 16 right now at 16.088, the goal here is to keep it at 16, in year after year, unless, when these industries do come, and then hopefully being able to, share in that and roll back at that time, rather than roll back now and then having to jack it up higher next year, because I don't want to have this conversation again next year. None of us want to be here next year looking at and having to have to do it at 17 or 18%. Nobody wants to do that. Trust me, nobody wants to. So, and yes, by then the SPLOST projects will all be done, but still, we would have to do it. And, that, I don't think that's a fair setup for anybody. I think the goal here is to be consistent in what we do. We have an opportunity to be at 16, and to keep it that way without having to do a 14. I think that's great, but I don't want to have to come back here next year and say, because we were at 14 this year, well, guess what? Now we got to be at 19, whatever. It's just, I think that's the worst setup that we could ever do.
Yeah,
And I
that
don't
would be
wanna
my
do that.
concern
I
as
don't want to
well.
do that.
I'd say
Yes, ma'am.
I look at this as a wake-up call to us. I mean, we're in a mess, and it's not none of our faults. It's from past commissions, and they've set us up for this. This is a perfect opportunity
Talk
for our
at microphone.
This is a perfect opportunity to fix a screw-up. I mean, right now, because we're just going, next year, last 2 years, I mean, we've had to keep it the same. And that was totally against everything I believed in then. And I told y'all last year, I said, please don't make me do this again. And here we are doing this stuff again, and I'm not going to do it this time. But let's just take this opportunity for us to really get involved. Because like I said, I don't pay attention to this stuff until the budget time comes along. But there is stuff in there that we can cut, and there's stuff that we can save a shitload of money and do without. And if it comes down to losing collection centers, I'd rather, if I have to, I would do it. Now, he said, don't do it. And I would. I don't want to. But if I have to, I would. To keep the tax, because I mean, at the top levels, this dang big chunk of money is coming out off of us at the end of the year every year. And it's like I say, I just bought some property, and I'm scared to death to see what the taxes are actually going to turn out to be. I don't know yet. It's unknown. I haven't even seen an assessment yet. So that's what scares me. I don't know how much it's going to be. So it's just, let's do this now and fix it over the year. We got a year to take care of this.
We don't want to come back after the fact, after all this is over, and come back and say, okay, by the way, now we've got to take mess with the trashes. No, nobody wants to do that. No one wants to come and take away the trash. You keeping it here allows us to actually do these things that's a need.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if we do, that's exactly what's going to happen, and I do not want to have that conversation again. I mean,
And we
it's
keep
just.
raising taxes,
We
we're
don't
gonna
want to
have
do
a
that.
fight.
That's
We're gonna have
not
to
the
fight.
intent here.
I mean,
That's not the right or fair thing to do.
I mean, we're going to have to make some cuts here and there.
Proverbially
Chairman.
fight, we don't mean fist fight.
And we're not cutting collection centers.
No,
We're not collect,
no,
we're not
that's the
cutting
goal.
collection centers.
The goal is not to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just use that as an
Mr.
example.
Chairman, any changes or any reductions that we make at this 11:45 hour will not be fair to those individuals who have gone the entire time of our budget, assuming that the aquatic center would be open, assuming that Rosenwall will be open, assuming that they will be able to get their grass cut in the right of way. Because I can assure you, with the time that I have been here and had to budget every year, that if there was an issue with pay, you would see that entire wall covered with Spalding County Sheriff's Department, firemen, and our employees filling this room up. And those people who wanted the aquatic center would fill this room up if they thought that that was at risk. And so to go in and try and start backing things out at this point without giving everybody an opportunity to know what is being pushed out, to me, is just unfair to the community.
Not being
So
realistic,
I make a motion.
Go ahead.
So since you want to call for the question, I make a motion, since nobody
Go
trying to.
ahead.
To
Set the millage rate
set the
at,
millage rate at the staff's recommendation of 16.008.
No, 16.088.
088.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a point to make.
Thank you.
So the additions that we're going to pay for, that we're proposing to pay for, to over and above what the rollback rate would be, includes $2.1 million for a pay study and pay increases for our underpaid staff. If 1 mil is 2.568 and some change, if we moved that number from the 2.1 million to 575,000, I know our employees are going to be mad at me for even putting forward this compromise position.
Yeah, you
That
make your
would-
own motion. I'll take my motion back if
This-
that's what you're trying to
I'm
add
not-
to it.
I'm not trying, this is a discussion on your motion.
Oh, okay.
That would let us pass a 15.588, and still provide for the pay study and some increases this year, this budget cycle, but not the full increases that we had hoped, that they had hoped. And yet, still get us into the 15 range and come to the compromise position that a lot of people were coming for.
Just remember, and I like what you're saying, but just remember, what we do this year sets up for next year. Just, we gotta remember that, and that's what I don't want this to happen.
Well, again, I've been saying this for years. We've got to get it off of the backs of the homeowners and onto other sources. And I've been up here preaching about raising the fine amounts, raising the fee amounts, raising the impact fees. Like, how do we get more, and every year, I'm the one in here championing, hey, we got to put more towards the development authority so that we can do more of this growth. And everyone looks at me like I'm an idiot. And yet here we are with the overwhelming majority of our tax base coming off of the backs of homeowners like myself. And that's not fair. That's the part of the triangle that's got to change. So, come on, y'all. I appreciate it, but come on, y'all. So we, this year, Ryan makes some good points. Hey, there might be stuff that we can mothball. I don't know the logistics of selling county property. I mean, there's a couple places that I don't think we're legally allowed to. I mean, selling Titus Parks would be that's a bad idea. But like there might be other things that we can, look into. At the same time, like we need folks to come out and support the shifting from housing tax base to industrial tax base. And so when those things are proposed, those make, those get posted. Those meetings are as open as everybody else. And yet we don't have those rooms filled with people going, yes, please build this so I can lower my taxes and we can put it on these industrials. Instead, we get a bunch of people that say, well, there's going to be lights. Or make up some like, well, what about sex trafficking with warehouses, like, and just nonsense that doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no facts behind that. And yet, again, I don't want to short our employees. Our employees are already, I mean, we lost somewhere around 10% of our fire department in the last year because they left going to other departments because they're paid more. And you can't fault them for that, all right? These men and women are running into fires, okay, for $10,000, $15,000 less here than they would in Henry County and Fulton County and Clayton County, and yet those places are still hiring. And so again, I don't think that we should lower their raises just to keep up with inflation to zero. That's not fair to them. That's not fair to all the overtime they pulled during these tornadoes. But I know the staff has put forward this $2.1 million figure for pay raises, the pay study. But if we pulled that back to $575,000, that's still a good chunk of money. It's not a quarter of what we want to do. But if we don't, it's a slap in the face of the citizens. So that's kind of my position. And I don't, again, I'm floating that idea because, like I said earlier, like you said in meetings before when they were talking about 18, this needs to be a unanimous vote. All 5 of us need to come forward and say, whatever this is where we're at. And that idea is not mine. That idea is yours, Gwen. Okay? And here we are not raising the millage rate, and you're saying, now I'm not going to vote for it if it's not an increase. But we also have Ryan saying, well, I'm not voting for it unless it's, the full rollback. So I'm trying to come up with a way that we can do everything that the citizens have asked us to do, that we can expand where we need to, bring us back up to where we need to be, get us moving in that direction, and yet still try to have a 5-0 vote up here. And so that's my position, and I'd love to hear from everybody else. I know this is just discussion on somebody else's motion, but.
All right, let's kind of go, before we vote. James, you're talking 15.
15,588 would essentially be the exact same thing, except.
So let's talk about the number wise, okay, so that everybody's clear, because I'd like to know, what does that look like, Steve, as far as compared to 16.088, 15.5, whatever you said?
That lowers the 2.1 million in proposed pay compression, that line, down to 575,000. Again, I'm rounding because this goes to digits, and I'm going to. So it would be a little bit more than that. It'd be maybe 10 grand more than that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm doing math on my phone up here. But
I can live with, so everybody, look, I can live with 15. You all know, I can live with 15.8 or whatever that number is you're proposing.
Compromise number that I.
Yes. Where are you, Ryan?
I rescind my motion.
No.
I mean, if this is what it took for y'all to be able to have a conversation about what number you want to talk about, but whatever it is, you will not get 5-0 from me if you are not including employee benefits, as we have discussed for the last year and a half. I can't in all consciousness
Okay,
do that.
so are you
So
rescinding?
I rescinded my motion.
And you're rescinding your second? Okay. James, are you making a motion?
So mine would be a 2-part motion. Well, I think we might have to do it in 2, because one would be the proposed changes. But can we include that in the proposed changes? Because that's part of the setting millage rate.
Make it 15. We don't, take away is a different issue.
Okay. Then I propose we set the millage rate at 15,588. That's my motion.
Brian, did you second that?
I'll second it.
All right. Any more discussion? This is it. This is really it right here. All right. All those in favor of 15,588?
You said, I think, I'm just gonna say, I can appreciate what you're trying to do. I really, really do. But I think you're setting it up in a way that's gonna be tough, not only for the employees, but also for the citizens next year, and for employees too. I mean, we're trying to get consistency here, and it's not gonna drive consistency in the next few years. It's not going to. But that's just my piece.
Help me
I mean,
understand
I'm not, I'm okay. Like I said, I totally, get it down to 15, definitely. Okay, I'm fine with that, but just know, you know, there's consequences with that, and we've
You
got to
don't
be ready
have a
for that
fund
next year.
balance.
We got to be ready next year when we sit here. Just remember that, okay?
Well, again, I think between now and next year, if
Okay.
we work hard to increase the
Okay.
industrial base,
All
if
right.
we work hard to make some.
And we're gonna do that in 6
some
months,
cuts
but
and-
okay.
You know what I mean, like.
Yeah, I'm just
We-
being real here, but okay.
We can't work hard to increase the
I
industrial
know that,
base.
but he
That's
says we
not
can't.
something that
So-
we can do. So the same way that we've been saying for 4 years that we need to increase the industrial base, the reason it hasn't been increased because we can't do it.
And you're
So-
not gonna be able
so-
to, and you're not gonna be able to guarantee this 15, whatever, next year also. You're not gonna be
That's
able to do
true.
that.
That's true.
So let's just make sure we're clear about that before you vote on it.
That's
Let's
true.
be consistent, but if you're okay with that, I'm okay with it, okay?
And Mr. Chairman, my comment is that as I sat in one of these seats last year, and I said to all of you, do not use your rainy day fund to fund the everyday budget. Anybody
did
remember that?
Yep.
And what happened? The worst case scenario happened. And we know what it costs for us to run the county. I'm very grateful that it's not 18. But I think that if we start cutting our services, it sets us up to, well, first of all,
sets everybody
there
up.
may not be anybody here to drive the fire truck. Because if I was gonna make $30,000 more as a paramedic in Henry County,
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Let's get through this.
are we finished? I would go there. So yeah, I just, I'm like Rita. I caution you. It might seem very magnanimous to do that, but if Steve says that we can make whatever happens with, what do you say, 16?
16.088.
Consistently.
I've trusted him with everything else that we have given him to do. Now, all of a sudden, we know better than what he knows to figure out what the budget is. I'm just saying, but that's my comment.
All right.
So that's all I have.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion for 15.58, 15.58, and we have
588.
588, excuse me,
Yes, just a half mil lower than what was-
15.588. And we have a second, last-minute discussion. All those in favor of 15.588, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. 3-2, motion carries.
I appreciate your support, but.
That was a tough decision. All right, we're going to now go into normal county business. If you would like to leave, this has been a long meeting for some of you, please do so quietly. And we will start on the proclamations and the next stuff we have to do. Thank you for coming out. It's important that you do that.
We'll see you the next time there's a zoning meeting
Yes.
about industrial growth.
Okay. Please continue to move on out. Have your conversations out in the hallway. We still have more to do tonight.
Use the gavel. Just use the gavel. Or just give us 1 or 2 minutes. Give us 1 or 2 minutes.
Take 5 minute break.
Yeah.
No, let's just roll, because I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay.
All this.
We can do it exchange code.
Item number 5, presentation and proclamations. Consider a proclamation, nunc pro tunc, honoring Thomas B. Gardner as the Griffin Exchange Club Man of the Year 2022. For those of you that don't understand, that means after the fact, because we didn't want Mr. Gardner to know about it ahead of time. All right, do I have a motion to approve the proclamation?
No. That's a bunch of men.
James, do I have a motion to approve the proclamation?
Motion to approve the proclamation.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 5-0. We'll read it now quickly, I'm sorry.
I always
No,
see
I'm
the
not-
pictures of you over there. And
No, I'm not in the exchange.
All right, you want me to read it then?
Yes, please.
Joint proclamation by the City of Griffin and Spalding County honoring the Exchange Club Man of the Year for 2022. Thomas B. Gardner. Whereas Tom Gardner is a native of Brevard, North Carolina, and an honor graduate of Brevard High School and Western Carolina University. And whereas Mr. Gardner is married to his wife, Gail, and they have 2 children, 3 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. And whereas Mr. Gardner has become a citizen, Mr. Gardner became a Griffin resident in 1996 when he moved with Springs Industry as the Senior Vice President of Bath Operations. He quickly became active in the community by joining the Griffin-Spalding Chamber of Commerce, United Way of Griffin, and the Dundee Community Association. And whereas he served as a member of the Board of Directors for Southern Crescent Technical College from 1998 to 2018, serving as chairman from 2017 to 2018. He also served as a member of the advisory board, Georgia Tech School of Textiles, from 1998 to 2002. And whereas Mr. Gardner serves on the Griffin-Spalding Development Authority, currently holding the position of chairman. He has been a member since 2011 and has held the position of treasurer as well. And whereas he has been a member of the board of directors of United Bank of Griffin since 1998, and he served as president of the Griffin Rotary Club from 2017 to 2018, and whereas Mr. Gardner was elected General Griffin in 2023. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the boards of commissioners of the City of Griffin and Spalding County, do hereby jointly and proudly recognize and pay tribute to Thomas B. Gardner for the many decades of accomplishments and contributions he has made to our citizenry. We, the boards of commissioners for the City of Griffin and Spalding County, have hereunto set our hands this 26th day of September in the year of our Lord 2023 for Griffin Exchange Club Man of the Year for 2022, Tom Gardner.
Thank you. Okay. Appreciate
Mr.
that.
Chairman, why is this so late in coming? Why are we doing the 2022?
I think they do theirs in a year.
It's always the year behind.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, item number 2, consider request from the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame Incorporated to proclaim Saturday, November 4th, 2023 as the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame Day in Spalding County, Georgia.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 5-0, motion carries. Dr. Ledbetter.
Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame Day, whereas since the founding of Georgia in 1733, over 1 million of its finest citizens have served in the military, to include active duty, reserve, and National Guard. And the patriotic men and women of Spalding County have always served to ensure that Spalding County, Georgia, and America are defended and protected. And Georgia currently has 678,304 living veterans of former service to America's military branches, and in 2013, the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame Incorporated was established to honor and induct annually 15 Georgians into the nation's premier Military Veterans Hall of Fame. And through 2023, 117 Georgians have been inducted, to include 6 from Spalding County. And since establishing an annual ROTC scholarship program in 2020, the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame Incorporated has awarded 39 $4,000 scholarships to Georgia's top 39 senior high school, junior ROTC cadets who are enrolled in the ROTC program at a Georgia 4-year university. And we commend the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame and the 177 inductees, and encourage all citizens to educate themselves concerning this effort and get involved in nominating worthy veterans. Now therefore be it resolved, we, the Spalding County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 4, 2023 as Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Day Incorporated Day, and encourage our citizens to pray for God's blessing on our nation and her people, in witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the county to be affixed this 2nd day of October in the year of our Lord 2023. Clay Davis.
Thank you. Are there any comments on the open public?
No, sir. No one is signed up for the comment section.
I will not read the citizen comments since I've already read it once. Item number 7, minutes. Consider approval of the minutes of the Spalding County Board of Commissioners Extraordinary Session and Executive Session on August 21st, 2023. The Spalding County Board of Commissioners Zoning Public Hearing on August 24th, 2023, and the Spalding County Board of Commissioners Special Called Meeting on September 5th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You got them both?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 5-0. Minutes are approved. Consent agenda. I will read the items on the consent agenda for consideration, and the board can vote on these items as a whole, or should there be a need to discuss any of the items individually, the board will vote on these items to be approved and then discuss the items in question prior to the vote on the remaining items. Number 1, approve the budget amendment for prior year encumbrances. Item 2, final budget amendments for FY23. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
We've got to change those because we just changed the proposed millage rate.
This is last year.
Oh, this is last year. Okay, sorry.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
I said I had already.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 5-0, motion carries. New business. Consider request from the Spalding County Sheriff's Office to declare surplus weapons that have been forfeited to the Spalding County Sheriff's Office via court order, and weapons that currently are property of the Spalding County Sheriff's Office that have become obsolete or are irreparable, and have those weapons properly disposed of through trade to a licensed federal firearms dealer. Anything about that? All right, do I have a motion to approve that?
Do they already have somebody picked out? Disposed of the trade to a licensed federal firearms dealer?
They do. They use the,
Hopefully it's
the
somebody local.
dealer, I'm sorry?
Hopefully it's somebody local.
It
There's
is.
about 100.
It
here in
is
Spalding.
local-ish.
Local-ish.
Just across the border in Henry County, I believe, is who they're currently using for their firearms dealer license.
That's localish.
Got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, how many weapons, do we have a list? Okay, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that. Because if there, is it county property or is it sheriff's department property?
I don't have the list. There may, hang on just a minute. Let's.
So I
look
guess I'm
through it.
just trying to find out how much it is and where do the funds go?
To the department, to the
Because-
sheriff's department.
No, I'm saying, didn't the county purchase the weapons in the first place?
Probably some not.
Okay.
I believe some of these were forfeited to the,
Yeah.
weapons turn-in project thing.
So how do we, how do we know where
Pass it-
what their
pass it.
origin is?
Pass it here.
Well, if
yeah,
it's not a Glock, it's
Here's Sheriff.
seized.
Sheriff
Oh,
can
hey,
answer that.
hey, Sheriff.
Sheriff?
Had to
Thank
step
you.
out for a second.
There
Each
is a
one of
black
these
Glock 27.
firearms was either seized as part of asset forfeiture, they are evidence, or that has been used in trials, or they are abandoned.
Okay.
Each one of them has been ran through GCIC multiple times to make sure that they're not stolen. Each one of these was placed on a court order signed by a superior court judge condemning them and turning them over as property to the county. When we do one of these trades, there's no money that exchanges hands. It is for in-store credit. And at times, we've been able to buy equipment for cars. We've been able to buy practice ammo or other equipment as needed.
Okay, so none of these are your, like, issued weapons?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am, none of
All
those.
right, we'll pass that
All
back.
right, do I have we got a motion yet?
Yeah, you have a motion and a second.
Okay, I have a motion.
No, I don't have a motion or
Okay,
a second.
do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve making those items as listed by the Sheriff's Department surplus to be disposed of through a licensed firearm dealers.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a
Right.
second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 5-0. Thank you for being here at the exact
Thanks.
right time, Sheriff.
Yes, sir. We were back in the back.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jesus.
All right.
Sheriff, we appreciate y'all being here tonight.
Item number 3, consider approval of the county attorney, Stephanie Wyndham's, to write a letter to the DOAA requesting that our appeal move forward to arbitration on issues of determining sales ratio for Spalding County.
Motion to approve having staff to have Stephanie to write a request for appeal to DOAA for our tax assessment decision.
All right, everybody should be up on this. Okay,
Yeah,
do I have a
second.
motion and a second? Any more discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 5-0, motion carries. Item number 4, consider support of a resolution urging the governor and the General Assembly to continue efforts to reform and improve mental health services for the citizens in the state of Georgia. You want to listen to it? I think all of you have read it before.
Motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. I'll second
You
it.
seem hesitant.
I'll second it, but I'm waiting for you to say okay before I say something.
Okay, discussion?
I think that this is a great thing, but we knew that 2 years ago when the governor said that he was, they wanted to do mental health rehab or rehabilitation of our mental health services. There was lots of money spent for studies, but no actual money that went into services. So how do we know that this whatever we're sending is going to say, yes, we would like to see physical sites where people can receive care, because none of the previous money has actually turned into care. So, yeah, we know, I don't know what's been done by the committees or what other committees or organizations have been set up, but, we don't have, locally, we don't have any emergency response services for 988. We have 988, but I'm just saying, we don't have a therapist in the car with the sheriff or the police department, so somebody's assessing that a person's actually having a mental breakdown or they're breaking the law. So I don't know, what we want the letter to say, but I think that some of the language should encourage them to put programs on the ground that can actually
Help.
touch people,
Yeah.
rather than, a committee trying to figure out
Y'all,
something.
I'm a big fan of the Veterans Mental Health Court that
Yeah.
we've been able to establish here.
something
and
like
just
that.
The lives that it changes. Before taking my place here, I was actually the public defender assigned to that. But even though I was making no money, I would technically be a county employee, so I had to give that off to somebody else.
Yeah.
But in just a short time I was there,
It's huge.
the changes in people's lives, that the justice system would just go, well, you've done this and here's your punishment, and not address the underlying issue.
The mental health
This
issue.
creates a way to address the underlying issue, whether it's addiction, whether it's mental health, whether it's a combination, whatever that is. These people need to be seen as more than a number, meaning to be seen as the human that's there. And these courts allow that to happen. And it's amazing when you stop looking at somebody as a number and how do we get through this case and start saying, hey, how do we treat you and help you? The change that is wrought there, there's like a 8% recidivism rate or something from that. Keep in mind, our prisons have like a 67% recidivism rate. It's just ridiculous. So these kind of programs coming from out of the state need to happen.
So, I know it's a form letter, but I just think we just need to stress that we need to see more things like that.
This resolution is a model resolution that was drafted by ACCG.
ACCG.
Yeah.
It is pretty bland.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see, we're trying to get 159 counties.
This is just,
Yeah,
Just to
this
send
would
it
be
up there.
the- This
letter.
would be the
Yes.
strength in numbers.
Okay.
Two, let me beat a dead horse that I continue to beat. We have $200,000, roughly $200,000 that we got from
With more to come.
with more to come, suits to be able to do that with. I'm very big on trying to get it to CSB. We could take, in my opinion, $100,000, give it to the CSB who treated our people who were addicted, And we could take $25,000 as an example and give it to Judge Ushery and say, here, that's huge amount of money to him to be able to do that, We have had discussions, just so everybody knows, with Sheriff Dix to be able to get it's called co-responder, somebody who is physically there, because it is not long-term money and we can't keep it up.
Right.
And we are very limited in the things that we can spend it for.
So we have decided, no, we're not going to do co-responder program, but I think we should take the $200,000 and get it out of our bank and get it out to where it can help somebody. Even if it's not the CSB, which is where I would prefer to put it, but look at it, I can take $100,000, put it in the CSB, and another $100,000 and figure out where to do it, like Judge Ussery. You know, these are people who have treated
Who have a program already in place that the money can immediately go to services.
Is there a way to maybe not add, a community response officer, but is there like a way to train, is there additional training that deputies could receive so as to not just think like deputies, but to have sort of that training as well?
I can look at,
you know what I mean? Like,
It's been several months since it's been on an agenda, so I haven't looked back at those settlement requirements in a while. But they're.
just that is.
We could take it and say, hey, Sheriff, if you want, as an example, CSB
pitch us
people
something.
to come in and teach classes for you to teach your people how to handle it. Because when they get into a situation and all of a sudden they're faced with somebody,
Right.
it is.
They're not assessing whether or not you're mentally.
Well, when you're a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail.
Right, that's what I'm
And
saying.
We need to not just be hammers,
All
we
right,
need to
so
be wrenches and
I would like for
screwdrivers.
us to think through that and say, hey, let's get that money out of us into where it needs to go to help people.
Mr. Chairman, the last time that you discussed it, that was what your direction was to do, was actually to come up with ideas about how the money could be used and possibly take suggestions from the community. Some were received, and it just hasn't gotten any further.
Well,
based
I
on-
personally like the idea of, an addition to helping, Community Service Board, working with the courts, because, it may be able to hire another judge, so that more people will be able to get into the, not just going out and having a DUI, but more people will be able to get into that court and into the system for help.
The only thing about hiring another judge is that it is a very finite amount of money for a very limited amount of time and for a specific use. So,
Well, maybe we can use it to pilot a felony version of that, because the current mental health court is just for the state courts, so it's just misdemeanors. It's mostly DUIs and this kind of stuff. People have presented mostly because they're self-medicating. Whereas, I mean, I know from personal experience as a criminal defense attorney, the overwhelming majority of felony clients I have a mental health issue too, and that's why they're there. That's why they're there. I had a woman who was arrested for burglary. She was just in a mental health episode and had wandered into her neighbor's house. She was just standing in the living room. And they were like, what are you doing in my living room? And she was totally non-responsive. But she's arrested for burglary. You see what I'm saying? Like, she should have been helped, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to, let me put handcuffs on you and take you to the jail. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like,
So workshop, next time workshop, this will be a thing that we will figure out how to do this.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
nerve-wracking.
All right.
She could have had a gun.
well, she was,
Well, but she would
was
have an
comatose. She was,
episode.
I mean, yeah.
Don't stand in front of somebody's house.
Yeah, inside. She was in the living room.
Okay, although we've had a motion and a second, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 5-0. Old business. Lift from the table and consider approval of an interlocal cooperation agreement with the city of Griffin for the executive director position at the Griffin Spalding Land Bank Authority. Gwen, this is all you.
Oh, okay.
What would you like us to do?
So I was waiting to see if anybody else was gonna say anything.
No,
I
we're
sent,
letting you take point on this one.
I sent my notes in, and my question was that part of the contract says that the city will be able to hire whatever staff necessary. We have only by mouth in previous IGA agreed to fund at $37,000. Nothing in that document tells us what that salary for that person is gonna be, what their, are we gonna be responsible for not just the salary and the benefits that go along with that, our half? So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that, and because, I was here when we had an issue with the transportation officer who was a county and city joint employer, and he had some real issues because the city was making him do things that were basically just city work. I'm not trying to say that they would do that, but it has been the history of it, and we're not gonna be babysitting this because it's gonna be across the street. So that's the main thing. I wanna know what the money number is that we're committing to. And go ahead, Stephanie.
Well, you can't have an actual money number until they are actually able to hire someone and determine exactly there's a maximum number, and it was included in that job description, which I do not have in front of me.
But is our responsibility half, or is our responsibility a set number? Like the development authority?
So-
We
Like
give
it
a
was
set number and then they
37
figure out what their
before,
budget
So,
is. you know what I mean?
here's the prior provision that you're amending. Employment and compensation of staff. The authority may employ, through contract or otherwise, any staff deemed necessary to carry out the duties and responsibilities of the authority. All staff members shall be elected by the board, and the board shall have the authority to set the terms and conditions, including benefits and compensation of any person so employed. That is now, instead of the authority may employ, it is the city of Griffin may employ through a personnel lease with the authority, and they will answer to the city of Griffin, just
Like the
as
airport
the
authority.
airport authority, the airport manager answers to the city of Griffin.
But those decisions
That is the
are
only
really.
thing that has changed. Your contribution amount was never set out before, and neither is the city of Griffin's. It's not set out now. And there was never any agreement that what you paid would be for salaries and benefits of an employee.
It's just a set
for
number.
expenses of the authority itself. And
But-
then-
but-
development.
no,
and
we-
there is still in the agreement, everything else that was in the prior agreement, which would include the management of funds, and that is that if there are other people, and that also that the city and county can, if things come up and the land bank comes to you and to the city and says, hey, we need this, this, and this, then it's gonna be up to you and the city to agree to fund those things. There's
Well-
no carte blanche. This is, the only thing that is different here is that there is an employee that has got to answer somewhere and fit into somebody's system for benefits, because it's going to be a full-time employee as opposed to what they've had in the past.
Like the airport authority.
So, I mean, I get that, but the airport authority guy does not answer to the planning and development director, or doesn't answer to the public works director. The airport guy answers to the airport authority. And maybe,
This person will also answer to the land bank authority. The only reason that they've put him in a department is basically because Chad Jacobs, as the planning and development director, has been and remains intimately involved with the housing authority, the land bank authority, they basically ran it for the last year and a half.
right, I mean, I don't doubt that. My concern is that we had a number, we don't have a number going forward now. We're just basically signing a contract, and if what it costs to, I mean, if they gotta have a administrative assistant, and they gotta have blah, blah, blah,
I think those issues would come back before both bodies, because
Yeah,
the
how much
city
money
and,
they get would come
right, the city and the county are going to be the ones that foot the bill for whatever that is.
But
So-
what does this say? I mean, what does this agreement say about that? Yeah, are we splitting this 50-50? Because clearly they're doing some other stuff, providing a desk, phone, internet, so that's in kind. It still has a dollar value.
Sure,
So, yeah, that's what I'm just trying to feel like.
We fund it to whatever level we want to, and they fund it to whatever level they want to, right?
That's
Just like
correct.
the airport or the development authority.
Yeah, and if the numbers don't add up, then they're gonna have to come back and talk about what the numbers should be.
I mean, it's like.
And
the
it will
development authority.
be, I mean, I have no idea how long it will take. It's taken this long to even get a job description put together. I have no idea how long it will
If,
take
you know
for
what,
them to
if
even
y'all
hire
are
anybody.
fine with it, I'm just simply saying the devil is always in the details.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was trying
Well, that's why
to
we
get to
got
the
her.
devil.
That's why we got her.
The change to the existing interlocal agreement is so very minuscule.
Yeah.
That, and it's already been approved by the city and also by the Land Bank Authority. And any further amending to this agreement is, the fear is that it would require us to go back and be under the 2012 Act, because we can only tweak it about this much without us having to do that. And, it's been almost 2 years and that they've been without an executive director.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't lifted this from the table yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the question is, do we want to
You're
lift it from the
absolutely
table at this point?
I mean,
I think
if
we should
Stephanie,
add it.
Yeah.
It's not a big
yeah, if Stephanie says
Stephanie's okay
that
with
it's
it.
minimal.
Do I have a motion to lift from the
Motion to
table?
lift.
Second.
All right.
Just gotta vote.
Any, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. All right, the document has been lifted. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second, the motion to approve the change.
All right, any more discussion on this document?
Again, like, it's not a set number of how much money that we're giving to that authority. So much like the development authority, we have seats at that table, and so does the city. The city gives exactly 0 to them every year, and we fully, fund it to several hundred thousand. The city could decide to fund them more. We could decide to fund them less or more. It would be kind of the same here. They could decide, we want to fund
I
the
don't
land
think
bank
that's
$500,000.
I don't think that's how that works.
That's not exactly how this works. It's more along the lines of the airport authority, because it is,
It's supposed to be self-funding. Yeah.
it is, well,
Like the airport.
that would be a pipe dream, but
Yeah, like the development authority.
Okay,
You can call for the question. I'm just looking up in the sky, hoping some money fall out.
all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. 5-0. All right, report of the county manager.
Just wanted to report that our T-Splost resurfacing projects are going quite well. We are all but 3 roads complete with our resurfacing, so.
For this year?
For this year. And the work to do the full paving, because it is full-depth reclamation at Carver Road Fire Station, has
The
begun.
parking lot area?
The parking lot area, so that will be more than just a gravel drive
Cool.
from this point forward. So kudos to the team for doing that.
Okay,
That's all my report. Yes, sir.
okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Because I have to report this out to the chamber, what was the proposed millage rate again that we adopted?
15,588.
15,588.
Okay, all right, so okay,
Kathy, just so I don't,
None of those are correct.
None of those are correct.
yeah, I mean, that's what my point is. We got to have a new one for us, okay?
okay, real quick, real quick.
No, go ahead.
This has been very long, trying, and probably the toughest I think we've ever endured when it came to this budget. I mean, and I think we're all appreciative that we all we were kind of scrapping at each other a little bit about really trying to get it together. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, we live with what the majority of the board decided. And, I get it. Like I said, I get it. But I'm just, like I said, I just think, I like to call it my own cliche. I think the setup is real. Because I think what we did is we may have hurt more than we think we've helped. Although it may seem like we helped tonight, rest assured, I don't think that's what the case is in the future. So, but you know what, we're majority, we stick together, and the board voted for that, so just be mindful of that.
Yeah, and it's going to take
It was the
all
right
of us.
decision tonight.
Yeah,
but I
it's
don't
going
know
to take
about
all
future.
of us to be able to
Tonight
work-
it was.
support this thing. One way or the other, trying to look at it, use all our brains to do it. Okay, Commissioner Bolden?
I appreciate y'all having the meeting with the insurance the other day, but we've received phone calls. I've received a phone call from mine, and basically they're telling me the same thing, with the prescriptions, that you gotta go through all this, blah, blah, blah. It's the same, so it hasn't anything changed with it.
What?
So, I mean,
Your
I still,
prescription on it?
yeah, so I'm going almost 2 months without a prescription now. So, I'm gonna try to reach out again, and just keep trying until I can get it.
Please don't let that go away. Don't.
No, I'm not, and
You
I'm
gotta
just
keep
using me as
talking
an
to us
example. I
about
mean,
that.
I'm not getting, I'm just.
No,
just-
I
I
wanna
just
hear
wanna-
about it.
'cause
Yeah,
I know other
every
people
time
gonna
we
run
meet,
into it too.
plan on you
And-
giving
and
us
it's
an
sing-
update.
and it's-
Folks in the clerk's office.
And it's almost like they're singling out the diabetic type medicines too,
Right.
the Manjaro and the Ozempic and stuff like that. I mean, it's.
Nobody else's stuff has gotten
That's
out.
right,
That's
right.
right.
Gosh.
Because a lot of people did abuse it in the beginning for weight loss and stuff, so. But
Okay.
that's part of it. There's other things that I was sitting here doodling after I talked after the millage rate. There's other things in which don't have a dog in the fight, but we gotta really stay on the tax assessor's office. You know, they evaluated a lot of these houses and they said, oh, we're gonna get to some of the other ones. So there's a lot of houses that's not. So a lot of people are kind of floating everybody, and it's not fair. So that, in my honest opinion, I don't know the legalities of it or what, they should have froze it until all of them were evaluated and did it all at one time, because that would have been a lot of money coming in also. The last thing, I sat in the same seat last year, and I'm not putting no blame on it. And number one thing is pray for everybody that was involved, pray for everybody's families, pray for the first responders that had to deal with it, and for anybody that witnessed it, because it was very traumatic. I mean, I've been in them situations. That's something when you close your eyes, you see it. But please, Board of Education, suspend that game. I'm not saying stop football, but just stop this game. The Spalding Griffin High game, it's 5 years in a row. And I knew, and I'm not gonna say I knew, I'm not gonna say I told you so, but I just felt that it was gonna lead to something like this. And y'all could say it happened a block away or whatever, but it was still, everybody was still in that area for the school, for the game. So just please think about stopping this game, please.
Okay. Commissioner Flowers Taylor?
I just want to say I'm very disappointed. I feel like the employees, lost out on this. But, as a board member, I always try to operate under whatever the majority says. Definitely not trying to undermine anything that we voted on, because we have to operate like that.
Thank
So even though it wasn't the millage rate that I would have wanted, I'll do whatever I can to make sure that I work to try to make sure that it works.
I hope all of us feel that exact same
Absolutely,
sentiment.
yes.
And this is
Yeah.
tough. I mean,
Yeah. It is what it is. But, and I agree that, we should look at, places where we can cut, but it does not need to be haphazard. We need to look at any long-term effects. I did not know that there was, well, I should have known, there's no recreation over on your side of town. I mean, duh, I can see why people hate recreation. They don't got anything to do. But I did want to comment.
James, you just have one too, don't you?
The park at Sixth and the new aquatic center are
Those
the
are the
only
two.
thing in my entire district as well.
Yeah.
He's got ties. I'm gonna have the aquatic center and whatever.
And I've got a
the
dog
downtown
park.
park. That's
I got
it.
a dog park.
Yeah, and she's got a dog park. Like it's all.
So yeah,
Splash pads, splash pads.
I understand that, but I also know that during COVID, our parks was one of the few places that people could actually go and be outside.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why we got the $10 million grant for Ambooks is because we need places for people to be able to go if there's ever another epidemic or whatever, because people were going stir crazy, staying in the house. So, I'm not opposed to looking at, maybe doing something different with the parklands, but certainly, whatever we do, we should look at trying to make sure that we are providing the same recreational outlets for people over in western Spalding County that you got over here in the, you know, because we do have a lot of stuff that belongs to the city in terms of parks. But, yeah, that's not a good thing. So I'm looking forward to, I'm sure we'll be spending the next couple of workshops digging around, trying to figure out where we can slim some things down. But, you guys always work really hard, and, I appreciate y'all listening to me, you know, because I know I get a little bit emotional sometimes, but,
That's okay.
Heart's in the right place.
but yeah, I wouldn't be here this long if I didn't care. So, the other thing is, Steve, thank you for all the work that you did. It's gonna be what it's gonna be.
You took a beating on this, so we get it.
Yeah, I'm good.
One of the comments I'd like to make about parks, when went to see David Lucky in the beginning, and I talked to him about what do we say if you call me in to talk to new or manufacturing and stuff like that. I said, you want me to talk about taxes, or you want me to talk about this, that? He said, I want you to talk about quality of life. Because the companies that are coming here, that's what he said, I'll talk pilot and all that other stuff. But what I want you to talk about is what it's like to live in our county. What are those things? So parks and stuff like that.
Live, work, and play.
Yes. All right. Vice Chair?
Let's talk about quality of life. When Caterpillar opened, they were going to hire 75 engineers and technicians that were making over $100,000 a year. Of those, only 10 moved to Spalding County. Everyone else commutes. Well, from far away, 30 minutes. Why? Why were you commuting to Spalding County? Because they all had kids. And they didn't want to put their kids in. Of those 10, 9 put their kids in private school and 1 family homeschools. Okay? None of those people put their kids in our schools. So these were high-end jobs. These were high-end, folks that were going to stay here, work here, and now they just commute through. They might stop for gas. They might stop for lunch. There's your quality of life bottleneck. All right? At the same time, we need that industrial growth. We need it. We need that higher-end commercial growth. We need it.
Yes, we do.
We had the Water Authority come in and talk about it today. We're desperate for it. You saw a crowd of people here tonight saying, hey, the tax burden's on me. And they're right. That's not fair. I want to encourage those same people, because these warehouses are going to come and say, hey, I'd love to be able to build here. And we're going to have a gaggle of folks come out and say, no, we don't want, if you don't want the tax burden to stay on you, like we don't, then you got to fill up these seats, and you got to come and say, hey, this is a great way that we can expand our industrial base. Now, again, I don't want this to turn into Gotham City. I don't want there to be gas pumped in but we have the only green industrial park in the southeastern United States. Okay? It's totally green. There's no emissions. There's no runoff. There's like none. And then we have private companies coming in saying, hey, we want to rezone this green. Can you make us have the same green qualifications so that we can also call ourselves green? Like, this isn't Gotham City. This isn't, the mess that's up 155. It's not a mess that's up on the Clayton County side of 1941. We're doing it right, but we need to encourage that growth instead of having those people go, man, we have to meet how many times? We got to come to how many meetings? We got to hear how many times? Hey, you want to come? Are you going to do it right? Okay, let's do it. On the other hand, though, Ryan's right. We got to find where to cut. We got to cut something out of everybody's budget. Again, the Rand Paul plan. Penny out of everyone's budget every year until, hey, if you can't find 1%, like, I don't know what to tell you. Surely you can find 1% somewhere. Just like the sheriff did, if you pay somebody what they're worth, they're going to work harder, they're going to work longer, they're going to work more efficiently. And so instead of having a lot of these positions, maybe we cut some of the total positions and then increase the pay. I know that we've really put Dr. Ledbetter in a real hard position. Feel free to throw us under the bus. That was not you. You absolutely fought for them.
Three under the bus.
That's what I meant, the three of us. Now, but at the same time, you know, some people wanted it to be even lower than we had.
Yeah.
Some people wanted it to be higher.
Right.
I think I came up with a good compromise position.
Yeah.
I get everyone's positions, people that wanted it to be lower, people that wanted it to be higher. You know, at the same time, I think we're in a position to do where we're at. Are we gonna lose people? Yeah. We lost 10% of our fire department last year. We're going to. That's gonna happen. But, you know, until, like we said tonight, we increase that industrial base, we cut some of those, you know, they're nice, but they're extras. Until we can cut that stuff, we're gonna keep finding ourselves in here. But there's other ways that we can increase that. I know that we've talked about the budget imbalance that comes from the CI. There's more ways to continue to balance that budget there. You know, look, let's re-RFP every contract. Let's say, I mean, every time that the healthcare comes up and says, hey, I'm sorry it went up, we go, all right, we're bidding this out again. Okay, let's do that every time. Let's see if there's other places to cut with every other contract. And again, I know that I'm harping on the same thing, but these fines and fees, all right? Look, speaking as a defense attorney, I go to all the surrounding courts. I go all the way to Hall County down to Chatham County. And there are very few places that have fines as low as us. Pike County has higher fines than us. And, you know, it's like, why? A lot of places have extra fees. Henry County, we pay $500,000 a year for our state court public defender. We pay $500,000 a year for our felony public defender, right? Just our portion. That's $1 million a year. We collect a $50 fee per client. Henry County collects $420 per client for their misdemeanors. Like, come on, y'all. Like, we can change that. These costs can, and you know, I've spoken to these judges. They'll uphold whatever fine numbers we fit. If we want to add, you know, a court renovation fee, we can do that. If we want to add a jail renovation fee, we can do that. And then they will tack that on as a percentage of every fine that gets levied. And the judges will do it. Now, of course, the judges still keep the leeway of saying, well, I'm not going to assess a fine here, so then all those fees don't attach as well. But and there's different ways, even in Henry County, to get out of the public defender fee, and there's different things the judges can do. But if we ask this, just like all the other counties have, that's literally millions that we're leaving on the table. Literally millions. I think at the same time, we get people who come in and say, hey, I've got this really good program and we need more money, or we need to offset the cost of that program, whether it's football, whether it's soccer, whether it's, you know, pavilion rentals. The cost of everything has gone up. The cost of those programs needs to go up. These things need to start carrying their own weight. I know that we're going to lose participation in those things because when the price goes up, that's how supply and demand works. But it's not fair to simply say every homeowner has to pay for this and we're subsidizing people renting, you know, pavilions and parks off of taxpayers. That's the kind of stuff that we can say, hey, I'm sorry, it's not $75 anymore. It's $100. Hey, it's $120. And there's just things like that. I think we heard tonight some folks bring up some very, very fair issues with the assessments. I, as required by law, try to stay very far away from the assessment. That's not something I do. My law firm does tax appeals in other counties. We don't even do it here in Spalding because even though the Bar Association says that wouldn't be a conflict of interest because I'm separated from the tax assessor's office, I stay away from our tax assessor's office completely. But to hear that across the street from our tax assessor's office, something's being assessed at a quarter of what its value is, even though it's on the market for that price, you know what I mean? Like, that's an easy assessment to make. Oh, hey, you're selling it for this, so you acknowledge that it's worth that. Like, that's, I mean, and yet we're going to all these far-flung places outside the city and we're reassessing for 20% more on average. There's an issue there. There's an issue there. And so how many millions are being left on the table by folks that, you know, might be commercial speculators from out of town selling something that they bought super cheap and they're not paying their taxes on it in the meantime? That's not fair.
No, it's not.
That's not fair. We talked a little bit tonight, and I'm very serious about it. I can't tell you how much I love the idea of a forensic audit. we need to know and be able to show with just clear plexiglass how transparent we are. Having those numbers to come out and say, we are hiding nothing, and show line by line exactly where we're at. We had a CPA come in tonight and say, hey, I would love to go through these numbers with you. Can we get his phone number and talk to him? I would love to sit down with him and go through it with him. And look, I've said it all along, if y'all can find somewhere specific to cut, we'll look at it. And at the same time, as far as it comes to the forensic audit, I'm in favor of us doing one, but I think it would go a long way to restore public trust in the other governments here locally if both the school board and the city would do the same. Again, I don't expect any of those 3 forensic audits to show that anybody's stealing money or that there's crazy misappropriation, but it would provide 100% transparency and proof that that's not happening. I want to be able to provide that to the citizens to show we are totally upfront. This is not something nobody's getting under the table, nothing. And I think that the city and the school board want to be able to do the same. So I want to encourage them to do the same. That's what I got.
Okay. First, Ryan, it's good to have you back and healthy and moving in the right direction. We truly appreciate that. To the board, thanks. There was nobody under the bus tonight, and I appreciate that. That's.
It was a lot of stress for me not to do that.
And I appreciate that. That's why I'm trying to make that comment, that that worked. James, thank you for finding the compromise position that to be able to get us all there, because it was going into delay. We were getting ready to table. We were one step from tabling. Maybe it was just on this side of the table that we were getting.
We had a motion
To do that. So the big part is done. Now we're going to get into some of those details. Steve will be bringing us decisions that are going to be hard for us.
Yeah.
This is, in some cases, almost to the amputation portion. This is going to look like that, and we're going to have to say, ugh! But yes. I heard, Rita, I heard loud and clear concern about next year and getting us ready for next year and how we're going to do that. Maybe we will just look that much different, I'm hoping, next year, so we don't have to do that same kind of stuff. But, yep, that's exactly right. It's our job to get us to that situation to do that with. All right.
I got one more thing, I'm sorry. I think tonight, I personally think tonight is an answer to prayer. And I think that prayers work. I think that God's real. And if we don't want another emergency, I want us 5, all of us up here, and I want everybody out there to join me in prayer fervently and ongoing that we don't have another January 12th situation. Look, nobody died. That was a miracle in itself, all right? But financially, we can't suffer another issue like that. Let's pray for the health of all our employees and our retirees, because if we've got to pay out these 100,000, 125,000 a pop, cases, look, it's not just, boy, I don't want them to get sick, but the county and the county taxpayers can't afford. So if let's join me in that prayer, that fervent prayer, that everybody stays safe, that there aren't emergencies, that everybody stays healthy, because I think prayer's real, and just like he answered it tonight, I think he'll answer those too.
We're going to continue to do workshops, so think through what the workshop topics need to be. Right now, I think there's some heavy topics that we need to look at. The next one we have is next month, beginning of next month. What does that look like? We are probably going to have another meeting within the next 10 days before the, maybe.
I think we need workshop finds.
We got
got things going on, so we think through that. All right. Anything else for anybody? All right, all right. Just so you know, the county manager's been almost personally rewriting.
No, I have been personally rewriting.
He has been personally rewriting Muni Code. What we got isn't cutting it. isn't the quality that Dr. Ledbetter's doing. And he has been, it's 400 pages?
858 pages.
858, and he is massively going through and Xing things out and having to write days and days of work, in case you don't know, that he has been doing, because
I don't understand that. I thought Muni Code was the answer.
so did we.
I don't understand it either, because the things that, Mr. Galloway and Dr. Ledbetter and I spent 3 hours on the phone with this guy going through everything, and the things that he told us would be done have not been done in this
That's
draft.
what I'm saying.
that-
Did we pay them money?
Not yet.
Not yet,
Not
and
yet.
I guarantee you that that will be a serious discussion,
Yes.
because they have earned nothing, in my
Because it's
opinion.
been like 18 months.
I think the Bar Association should be involved.
So this, I just wanted to make sure everybody understands.
Thank you for telling us that.
One of the issues that's really bad about it is the amount of time that our county manager is having to spend personally to do it. This is not just rewriting a 5-page document. This is hours and hours, and turns into days and days of his work, that we want him to try to do something else, and he has to look at it and say, this is that important to us to get it right.
We
So,
would have done this differently.
yes.
So
Had we
how much
predicted
help
the
can
outcome.
Charles Reese be? Not with this?
No, ma'am,
This
so
is
our-
a legal thing?
well, our community development department has Charles and Eva as the two that are planning our community running forward. And they are inundated with permit requests and pre-construction conversations and pre-development conversations. The amount of work that group has undertaken just in the last few months is almost overwhelming.
And the ordinances that the prior community development director placed in front of you, there were lots of them, but every one of them had to be rewritten. I spent hours and hours rewriting those, because they were not up to par. So you don't need your directors
No.
writing ordinances.
That was just information for you, so you understand. Part of what his time is doing something that we thought all he would have to do was just read through it and say, okay, this is good. Not working like that.
Unicode has been through at least 2 attorneys. This is our 3rd attorney. And it is extraordinarily evident from the reviews that I've done. I'm 25% through the material, and I'm going word for word, line by line, pulling up legal cases and the law, and making sure that all that we have in place is pertinent and accurate and timely. Stephanie and Newton and I have scheduled time. We've asked for 3 full days to do nothing but go through this material to make sure that we bring it to you in a draft form that will be readable.
Are you looking at the zoning, or are you looking at the building?
The entire
The entire
code.
code of ordinance is that bad,
Just the code of ordinances?
The entire code of
from
ordinances.
page 1 through page
That's
858.
just a shame.
Yes. On top of every other problem he's got. you know. All right. Do I have motion to adjourn?
You have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. We're adjourned.
Of our day.
Where you at?